Welcome back to Viewmasters. I am Ed, joined by Rusty.
It's a Christmas miracle. We're back with a
It's-
holiday episode.
so many people tell me that our holiday episodes are that part of their family's Christmas traditions.
Nobody ever said that.
They sit down and they put on the Silent Night, Deadly Night episode with the whole family. Anyway, Rusty, you're always about the holidays. How deep into it are you now?
Well, I have Jen and my daughter, so I'm ganged up on. So everything's up already. Been up for the 2 weeks already now. So the tree's up, the decorations are up. It's very cozy. I do enjoy that.
Yeah,
So
you're
I don't
making it
mind so much.
sound like you're making it sound like you're not into it when you
No,
are
I am.
literally known as Chris Kringle.
I know. I feel like I'm getting depressed already though, and it's only the first. You know what I mean though.
Oh yeah, of course.
The rushed holiday feeling.
Yeah, I'm hoping that now that I'm going to have a kid, I can like pump her up full of the Christmas spirit and drink her blood. Just fill her up with it and just suck it out of her.
Nova's totally into it now, although she's a bit skeptical of Santa already, and she's only
Really?
4. Yeah, it's crazy because she's like everything's just like you're just joking, right? Like our monster's real, and Jen she's like you're just joking, and she asked Jen about the tooth fairy, and I guess previously Jen has told her that fairies don't exist; it's just pretend. So she's just like, "Our tooth is the tooth fairy real?" And Jen's just like, and she's like, "Cause you said fairies aren't real." So she's kind of doing that a bit with Santa. She's not quite sure if it's real or
Mhm.
not. So I feel like she's going to figure it out very quickly, especially since we get like a ton of Amazon packages every day. And if you know anything about Amazon stuff, sometimes they deliver things that are just the box of what you purchase with like the shipping label on it. So she's seen some of her gifts already, and we have to keep telling her that they're for other kids.
Yeah, I
But
request that service.
I feel like she's going to put it together though.
Can you leave a MacBook in its original packaging on my
Yeah.
porch for 8 hours, please? Uh,
Are you a
have I watched any
problem?
holiday movies yet?
I
Well,
watched
I watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, the 1984 Thanksgiving Parade.
1984. There you go.
Yeah.
Loved it. Did he love it?
Well, the whole reason I watched it was because I saw Dinosaur Dracula post that there was a V float that year. Now, as you know, I am the biggest fan of V there is.
It's true. You didn't you make a costume or didn't you commission a costume?
Now, I did make the costume. Um, no one at the party knew who I was except a guy who had been canceled. And I think I've told the story here before, but he was like, dude, I had the same costume last year. No one knew who I was. Um, and I was like, do I keep talking to this guy who has been completely canceled?
Oh, so he was already canceled at that point.
Yeah,
And you knew.
I'm sure I was paranoid, but I felt people's eyes at the party like on me, like, why are you talking to him? But I was also like, but I know no one else at this party besides like the host, who I can't really just, hang on their
Yeah.
ass. So I was like, I guess I'll just keep talking to this guy.
Yeah. This is like a Seinfeld episode. It feels like
Oh,
something that
very
would.
much so.
I have a really good memory of like when I was aged 4 to like 11, but I
Mhm.
never remember
Just
watching
of
any
life, you
of
mean?
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have any memories really of the Thanksgiving Day parade. Like I can't
Yeah.
recall anything specifically except like when the Barney float popped. That's about it.
Yeah. As we probably have established, because of the incident at the 1984 Olympic team parade, where I was there for the scaffolding collapsing, I've always hated parades my whole life. And I think I would have hated them anyway, because they're like kind of uniquely boring. But this 1984 parade is crazy because it makes you realize that 1984 was like closer to 1954 than it is till today. Like
Yeah,
there's
for
all
sure.
these acts that you're like, what is this? This is like a vaudeville act they have going. Like it doesn't seem modern on any level.
The Al Jolson float comes by. You're like, what
There
the
is something like that.
heck? You know what we did recently, last weekend? Did you ever hear of those like Storytime Santa events?
No.
It's basically you go to like a place and like your child walks through like Santa's workshop. It's very like Rockwellian kind of setup, very like quaint scenic shots, and they take pictures of
Hmm.
the kids like your kid doing things with Santa, like building with blocks and making a gift and making cookies and stuff like that. And there's some of the photos are planned and some are kind of more you know what am I trying to say? Secretive.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
spur of the moment kind of things. And it's very cool. And like we told Nova that she was going to meet Santa, and she of course questioned that. She's just like, why is Santa's workshop so close to us?
Yeah.
And we had to explain, well, this is just one of his many workshops that he has because there's so many gifts he has to make. But she was like super pumped up for it. And beforehand, she was talking such a big game, like the big gift she wants. And it's not like a big gift, but you know the Minions, right?
Yeah, I used to date one of them.
Hopefully not the one-eyed one. That one's got bad energy.
Okay, I don't even know him. I thought they all had one
Uh,
eye.
uh, but anyways, so with the Minions, uh, there's this thing that they have. It's like a fart gun. And
Oh
they,
yeah, I was
oh,
going to
you
bring
know
one of
that.
those to a. I was going to bring one to a school recently.
Aren't
No,
you?
that's I
Aren't
can't even fucking say that.
well, you're like the human fart gun. So, but anyway, so they make a product called the fart gun, and that is what my daughter wants so badly. And it's funny because there's two smells that come with it. One is banana scent, which I guess is a
Mhm.
Minions thing, but the other one is bottled fart, which I don't know what it's going to smell like. And Nova just wants to spray it on everyone. That's like her Christmas wish. She
Have
just
you ever
wants to
heard
let
of
loose.
liquid ass?
I know what liquid ass is, but why would they give that to a kid as a kid's
Oh
toy?
yeah, no, I'm sure it's not that strong. But years ago, I had a friend who was like a, believe it or not, she was a model, but she would always have liquid ass with her, and she like destroyed so many places with it. And I was like, what is this, like an indie film? Like the model with the liquid ass?
Oh, I hate people that carry liquid ass,
Really?
especially
Yeah.
well if you get stuck somewhere
I mean,
and
it'd
you
be
can't leave.
crazy. I would never use it, but I'd love to have it on me.
Oh yeah.
Second
Where-
Amendment.
But yeah, so my daughter every like almost every day she just says that if you ask her what do you want for Christmas, she says the fart gun, and she wants to just spray people with it.
I
So
admire
she
that.
so she just wanted to tell Santa about that, and she's telling me like saying like what else are you gonna tell Santa? She's like I'm going to fart on him, and I'm gonna tell him that he has a big butt, and she's just cracking herself up. So we get there and they have you wait in a lobby and it's like, very quaint. It's like a fireplace and, just
Yeah.
figurines everywhere and like old fashioned toys. But this place has been around a while, so it's a little bit dirty. So it kind of took me out of it. But then, like an elf who's just in pajamas comes out and gets you. And they like have, your kid do like a secret spell to open this like bookcase that's actually a passageway. And you walk through and it's like this big candy display. And you finally get there and Santa comes and greets you. And as soon as Santa came out, like what every child probably does, that's like 3, 4 years old, she froze up. She quickly grabbed my hand and Jen's hand and like locked lips. She couldn't say, she didn't say anything the entire time. So he's asking her questions and she's just like nodding, but you could see like the panic in her face. And like I felt like uncomfortable, like not just because of seeing how like my daughter was acting, but I felt uncomfortable because it was just such a like a weird experience. Like
Weird. How?
Santa's in character, but he's acting like Santa,
Yeah.
but he's not really addressing you. He's just like, he's more about Nova. So it's like we were just completely in the back. He's just like, okay, you parents
Oh,
step
yeah.
over there, and we're just like over there. But he never like addressed us, so the elves would just be like, "Okay, you want to get in a photo?" And we're like, "Okay,
So
whatever."
it's like
But
all your agency as a parent is completely absent, which rarely happens probably
oh
up
yeah,
through
and
this
like the
stage.
thing, and like like I mean, he was very appropriate, so he wasn't like doing anything, but he's like picking her up and putting her on like a swing and stuff, and I'm just like
Yeah.
watching, like not even saying anything, just going along with it. But he did have this swing, and Nova, of course, was like obsessed that there was a hole in the bottom of it.
A hole in the bottom of the swing.
Yeah, so like if you sat on the swing, there was like a hole that if you were a pervert, you could lay underneath and look like up. It was very bizarre.
Wait, but how big was the hole? I'm trying to imagine this.
It was like you could probably get a basketball through there. So it
A
was
basketball?
like it was
Okay.
almost like a tire swing, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
okay. All right. I was
But
picturing
Nova
much
like
smaller. Wow.
yeah, but Nova couldn't like figure out why that was the swing, and I didn't know either because a kid could easily like kind of have their ass fall into it.
Was it for his ass?
No, he didn't sit on it. He just stood behind her. I was thinking maybe like if you have multiple kids, so like you could like seat some a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know. I was
can't
just
see,
looking at it as having a singular kid. Yeah,
yeah, I can't see the reason for the whole.
but like he did different activities with her in like you know like
How long is this experience?
half hour. So they
What?
like
Oh my God.
they move you along. They move they're very efficient for like two teenage kids and then like Santa Claus like they move lights all around and camera on the tripod and set up these shots. I mean, they were very professional.
I mean, but a half hour is so much longer than I was expecting. I
Oh,
thought this
you
was
were
like a
thinking
line. I thought this was like your classic Christmas story thing where it's like a line and then she like sits on his lap and then he, it's like a
no, no,
30
no.
minute
This
experience.
is a experience. Yeah, but it's funny because they have three families at once, but there's three different Santas that Jen and I figured out that they take you to three different areas. So, so like each family is doing their own separate thing with a Santa. So maybe there's a good Santa and a bad Santa. Ours is pretty good. He was okay.
Why don't you just fuck him?
I can't do that with Jen and Nova there.
Well, what about the elves?
But
Interesting.
like, yeah, so like he did this thing where he was stacking blocks and he was trying to be funny, but like to a kid's level, but like, you know, Nova is all about the fart jokes right now. And he was just like, you're building blocks bigger than my elves. And like nobody was laughing and Nova's just kind of like nodding.
I don't even see the joke.
Yeah. And then he's like, you want to push them over? And he's like, don't worry, I'll have my elves clean it up. But like nobody cleaned it up. So
I
I don't
want to punch this guy in the face.
know. But after, so like Nova's shy the whole time and he like asked her what she wanted for Christmas. And we knew what she wanted. And she's just like tensed up. And Nova's like, can I tell him what you want? And Nova like nods. And Jen says, she wants a fart gun from like Minions. And he's like, oh, fart gun? What are you going to do with a fart gun? And Nova looked like she was about to cry. If it
Uh,
looked like the shame and embarrassment of like being pantsed in front of people as a kid. But and after that we were done and they gave her like cookies and stuff. They usher you out through like a secret exit, which is just into like the back parking lot.
mhm.
And we're walking back to the car and we're just like, Nova, did you like that? And she like nodded like yes. And then she's just like said that was a lot of fun and she was like repeating different things. And it's like it's so weird how kids are. Like you think they were
Yeah.
like will be scarred, but she was saying how funny it was that she built like blocks bigger than the elves, and then they were like fell over. And she thought it was funny that like Jen said about the fart gun, even though it looked like she was going to cry. But yeah, that's what we did. I would definitely recommend it, but I don't think I'd ever do it again. I mean, Jen and I did thought it was just gonna be for Nova, so we didn't dress up or anything. But we saw like families like in suit, like like they're all matching outfits, and like the dad's in a suit but with a matching shirt to the kids and stuff. And it was just
Wait,
like
in a suit, but in a matching shirt? What?
the vest would be like the pattern of like their kids like dress or their son's like vest or whatever. So like the whole family would match.
They should be fucking shot.
And I'm looking at Jen like, are we not doing this correctly, or like are some people just really into it?
My whole life has been like hating people that are too into things and also wishing that I could be too into things. Like I'd probably be happier.
If you were into things,
Yeah. Like into,
if
like I always want to be into Christmas, but it's like instead I found myself half-heartedly watching like Rudolph the other night.
that's what Charlie Brown has done to you.
I
You're
know.
like,
Well, did. But Rudolph, that was a weird revisit because his journey as chronicled in the song is barely in the movie. It's like the last 10 seconds of the movie.
mm, what
Don't
would
you think
it would have been a five minute.
if they made that now, it would open with like the most doomed part of the journey where it's like you think that he's died, like Santa just got shot in the head and shit, and then like it would flash back and then it would cut back and forth between like his life, but the journey would be also the bulk of it.
Sounds like the Willy Wonka remake. Jesus,
I,
it's
I didn't I
terrible.
didn't I didn't see that.
Uh, did you remember?
Um,
Did you ever watch Mad TV?
not really.
I didn't either, but they had a Rudolph segment, but it was like based off of I think Goodfellas, maybe.
Hmm.
Definitely like Martin Scorsese. It's like Martin Scorsese does Rudolph. It was like very violent. I remember it being really good. I wonder if I could watch it on YouTube.
Okay. That's what this dark question was?
Yeah, I don't know. I have nothing left of me. Speaking of holiday movies, you know what I watched today? Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And for some reason, it felt like a holiday movie to me. Maybe because I have memories of watching it as a kid during like winter time.
Yeah, I could see that. Somehow all of Spielberg's
'Cause-
movies feel a little Christmassy just
yeah,
by some kind of weird default.
I mean, there was the one snow scene, but you know what? Like, I never really thought of before until I watched it this time that I thought was weird. Do you know, like, when they're in, what is it, Pengot Palace? And, like, they each go to their separate rooms, and, like, Indiana brings Willie the fruit plate.
Hmm.
And then there's a lot of innuendo going on. And then he, like, leaves, and he's just like, she'll be in here in any minute. And she's like, he'll be in here in a minute. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, fucking yeah, of course.
And they're like very prideful about it, so they're not going to make the move first. But like Indiana's waiting for her in his bed to come in and do it. But Short Round is just next to them, like sleeping. It's just like, was he just going to do it? And like Short Round would just wake up and just watch him or join in.
Dude, that's what knocked him out of the business for so long because he was like, Spielberg wanted me to watch Indiana Jones fuck his wife, and I was blacklisted for not being there. Man,
Sick. Yeah.
you know, there's a deleted scene. This is not a joke. There's a deleted scene in Temple of Doom where the whoever, like the British colonel guy and Indiana Jones talk after the racist dinner, and they're like, that was weird. Like Hindus would never eat that way. So that dinner is actually supposed to, while still offensive, it's supposed to be that they were being weird, not that all Indian people. I'm just trying to redeem this colonialist movie. I also have a Rudyard Kipling podcast if you want to check that out.
You got that out. You know that like the British colonel, he's in The Shining.
Oh yeah, he's like the corrected guy.
Yeah. It needed to be corrected. Yeah. I wonder if he took Short Round in the back, showed him a thing or two.
Wow, I don't even know how
Was that a deleted scene?
that might be a deleted scene. Although while we're here, you should probably mention how I was attracted to the Maharaja as a child.
Are you asking me to tell you that, or you just want to announce it to everyone?
I just want to find out where he is. Where is he today?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an update on him.
Imagine if he like lived in my neighborhood.
You need to do like a Todd in the Shadows, but of movies instead of music, and you give us a backstory on them, Maharaj.
Oh yeah, well, my whole channel would just be like a thinly veiled attempt to find out what the Maharaj is up to and date him. It's like, why? Notice all of his videos come back to that guy, and he was only in that one film. Like, why does it always come back to the Maharaja? Actually, I don't know if he's only in one film. For all I know, he's
he could be famous. Were you conflicted when Short Round was beating him up, putting cuts on his face?
Whoever wins, I lose. That was my. Wait, that doesn't work. I don't know what to say.
Like there's a fan out there that keeps like track of things you repeat or things that are repeated in episodes. I wonder how many times you have mentioned your attraction to the Maharaj.
Robbie, let's get another one of those lists.
Even as a kid, though, when they bring out like the chilled monkey brains and just seeing like the monkey face.
Yeah, the monkey that bothered me.
But it's also very comical because it was just like it obviously doesn't look real.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just looked silly to me. It's
weird. I can barely picture my parents, but I can draw the exact frown, the frown that monkey face has.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be a reference to Faces of Death because Faces of Death was like a hot video at the time in the Hollywood scene. Like when it first came out, it had the same kind of like mystique that it did to us as a teenager. And so the monkey scene was super famous. So I've heard someone say that. Look, I don't know if it's true.
I mean, obviously in Faces of Death, it's been, revealed as fake, one of the fake ones.
Yeah.
But is there any cultures that do just like put a monkey in the middle of a table and then hit it with like little hammers and then eat it?
I think that's just my family. So now, Rusty, today we're doing, like I said, it's one of our classic holiday specials that people wait for all year. And this is going to be a bit reminiscent of our 30 minutes or less episodes. We're both
clamoring for those.
They were. And can I just say there was no drama with Poe? I did get a couple emails that said, what happened with Poe? There's no drama there. Poe just moved away.
Where did she even move to?
Uh, she moved to one of the holes in the Alf set. She moved to the one that the dad fell into. She's
Oh,
so
that's
happy now living in that hole.
we have to do an update on that Elf episode then.
The thing is, I do love watching. I do those episodes anytime because I love watching these sitcoms. Although my episode, I fucking hate it.
Mine was so. Um, I did like the 30 minutes or less because it's very, very hard to watch, 40-year-old sitcoms now. But if you have to watch them for research purposes, they're actually pretty fun.
Oh yeah. The thing is, we both have nostalgia for these shows, and like I think on some level you think to yourself, "Oh, I'll go back and watch those someday," but you will literally die and never have watched them again.
I randomly, like, sometimes have a slightest bit of motivation to like watch a series from like a random one, like Alienation or something, and I never do because by the time I research, like if it's on YouTube or Amazon, I'm just like, why am I doing this? I don't want to watch this show.
I'm sure everyone gets this, but you have the thing where this is so obvious because we all do it, but
Mhm.
I debate what I'm going to watch all night, and then I end up picking the worst thing at like 1 a.m.
Oh yeah.
My worst example of this is I just remember one time my parents' apartment in Brooklyn. I had that struggle, and then I ended up watching one of my father's Victory at Sea DVDs. It's like a documentary from like the 60s in black and white. It's just like the Allies launched another naval campaign. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching this for?
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough
Uh,
watch.
So my episode was Growing Pains, A Christmas Story from season 1, episode 12.
Wait, yours is also called A Christmas Story because that's my Mr. Belvedere episode's title.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna work that into the title. In my research of Growing Pains, now I know we did a Growing Pains episode with Poe, but I don't know if I realized how dark this show was. This had to have been one of the most like horrific workplaces since the mine in Temple of Doom for the kids.
You heard the wailing from like another area.
Like I don't know if I there's things that I don't know if I can read out loud on a podcast, but I'm going to.
Oh,
That's what I'm going to say. And your episode, Mr. Belvedere, A Christmas Story. Now, I'm really curious about this. The late Lee Gambon, he loved Mr. Belvedere and the lovely Wesley.
Lovely Wesley.
Okay, so do you want to go first or should I go first?
It's up to you. What was your air date? Mine was December 18th, 1987.
Mine was 85.
Maybe you should go first. Start earlier.
So this is from the first season of Growing Pains. And I probably said this last time, but I remember the first time I watched Growing Pains, my aunt was babysitting us and she's like, the family lives on Long Island. And
is that Mark Simpson?
I don't know. I never did my aunt's voice before. I could have swore she said they lived in Massapequa, but they lived in Huntington.
Yeah.
Still pretty crazy. Although I think a lot of sitcoms actually took place on Long Island.
Did Wonder Years or Wonder Years was supposed to? I always forget. It was supposed to, right?
I think it's Wonder Years never establishes exactly where it is. But Wonder Years was created by the same person,
Guy, right? Yeah.
same people. Neil Marlins and his wife Carol Black, who created all of their stuff together. Now, the weird thing about this story is that Neil and his wife and most of the writing staff were actually forced out of the show midway through the first season. And that's pretty crazy. Like, that's pretty unprecedented. And the crazy thing is that you used to make so much money from a syndicated show back then that even though Neil and his wife were forced out, I bet they still made like $40 million. And it's crazy to think that, like, imagine getting pushed out of a job like not 3 months, but like 10 months into it, but you get paid forever. Not bad.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, I don't even think I would like try to do anything else. I would just relax for the rest of my life.
Well, he did. I mean, they created Wonder Years and then Ellen.
I know the fact that they had 2 more hits after that. Like, I would just call it quits. Like, I'm never going to do anything better than this.
But here's the crazy thing about this story, and none of this is like documented. They never said what the situation was, why they were forced out. But the people who replaced them were these two guys, Steve Marshall and Dan Gunselman, who had formed their writing partnership while working on WKRP in Cincinnati. Now, here's
That
the
was one of
thing.
those shows. Oh, that I just want to say that was one of those shows that would, re-air, and like I never liked that show. Like when it was on in the background.
Oh, I always hated this. We've talked to this to death, but that 70s vintage
Yeah.
feel that we didn't like.
Yeah.
I was trying to find something to watch on Thanksgiving, like a Thanksgiving, trying to get that holiday hit.
Did you watch the
And
turkey one of that?
well, it's funny because I saw a bunch of people recommending that on Reddit, and then I remembered, like, I have seen this fucking recommendation from this same Reddit thread for years and years.
Did you watch it though?
No, I did not, but I did watch some Frasier ones, and
Oh
I
yeah,
watched
he said.
that Cheers one.
Yes, you sent me a clip of that. Cheers one.
Yeah, Thanksgiving Orphans. Actually, those three things were pretty fun.
Really?
So,
I tried to watch Cheers from the beginning, and I made it into like the second or third season.
yeah, I mean, I would never do that.
Yeah,
But you've been
I was more
ignoring
ambitious.
every good show since like the golden era of TV. So it'd be kind of crazy if you watched Cheers instead of Succession or The Sopranos. I don't know.
I did watch The Sopranos.
I knew you did. That was the one.
I did watch Walking Dead, and that show was
Walking Dead is
awful.
fucking shit. That makes me sick that you say that. Okay,
Walking
so
Dead's
let me
already like so old.
uh, let me get back on track here. So this writing partnership, these writing partners became the showrunners of the show. And as I'm sure you know, the showrunner of a TV show is like the ultimate boss over everyone beneath them on the show. They answer completely to the network, but like to everyone below them, they are like, you can be a real tyrant. Like you're in control of so many aspects of things. It's kind of crazy that it still is like that and hasn't been peeled back yet by like, tech companies coming in and whatnot. So my point of saying all of this is that showrunner got arrested for being a child molester.
Oh boy.
There was a cop that went undercover and, made contact with him and pretending to be a guy who shared his interests. And to this cop, he said, and then now in all caps, all caps, love molesting children. And he showed her footage of him molesting a 9-year-old.
Oh God.
And he said, I turned her into a total slut. Then he said to the cop, we pedos need to stick together. So think of how horrible that just sounds like an out of control fucking pervert madman.
Yeah.
And then he is the ultimate boss of this show, which has a bunch of kids and shit. And he was the boss
the people
of the whole
in
time.
power.
Well, okay.
Not
First
always,
of all, I think there's a lot more. I don't even know how we're on this topic, but shit like
very
QAnon,
Christmassy.
shit like QAnon makes like pedophilia this like over the top black magic thing when it is like so common. I'm not saying that's good, but I'm saying like I don't know. I read some stat that's like 1 in 10 people or something like that, or maybe even more. I don't know.
You should just go run outside
So-
and beat the first 10 people up that you see. One of them is at least guilty of something bad.
Like, wow, this guy's. I guess he's trying to do good, but okay. So we have that guy at the top of this show, and then Kirk Cameron becomes the breakout star of it, and then becomes like an evangelical Christian and starts like going to war with the rest of the cast.
Wait, but if the showrunner has ultimate power, but
Mhm.
Kirk Cameron made a lot of the decisions. So did he become bigger than like the showrunner, or was he just like working with them?
See, this brings us to an issue that happened at one point when Kirk, I can't believe I referred to him as a first name basis, but when Kirk Cameron,
Good old Kirk.
he said like demanded that they be fired and said that they were pornographers. Now, was he saying that they were pornographers because of like his right-wing Christian views, and like did he just get lucky, or did like because the guy really was a pornographer,
Yeah.
or was he just saying that? Man, if Kirk Cameron ever goes on Cameo, I'm going to ask that. Kirk will be like, so Ed says happy birthday, and he says, let me just see this here. He says, when you call the guy a pornographer, did you actually know, or did you just get lucky? Happy birthday. I can't give him money though.
Oh yeah, not even for that answer.
Wait, isn't it crazy to think I've gotten you cameos from Dikembe Mutombo and Tony Todd, and they're both dead?
Yeah, now they're worth a fortune. So it's
Wow.
good,
Do you think in
good
heaven they're
business model.
like, did you ever give a cameo to a Rusty? He's like, I did actually when his dog died.
What's the Dikembe one for again?
I don't remember, but the Tony Todd one wasn't it good because he talked about his own pet dying.
He did.
I
He
feel like
went
that
on
was
a
like
little
a
bit too long about that.
oh yeah. Sometimes it's scary when you send the cameo as like a joke basically, and you see it's like a 6 minute runtime, and you're like, oh no, what did I get Johnny Sack from Sopranos into? The relationship between all of the stars on the show had went from being really close to then like when Kirk Cameron got married, he didn't invite any of the cast to the wedding, and everyone was upset about it.
I would have been like, well, looks like I get to save money.
And and we talked about how Jeremy Miller, who played Ben, started
Yeah.
drinking at age 4.
Age 4. My daughter's age 4.5. I can't imagine her drinking. That's insane.
Also,
It's
Alan Thicke, to speak ill of the dead here, was known to be a bit of a creep.
oh really? He was like the
Fam-
American Dad too.
yeah,
He had a
famously,
sinister.
he had a sinister undercurrent because famously, he dated Christy Swanson when he was 40 and she was 16.
Oh God. So he was like a groomer, is what you're saying.
Maybe we shouldn't throw stones though, because we wanted to date her when we were 7 and she was 16, which is also a troubling age gap. Alan Thicke's like, babe, I know I'm too old for you, but these two kids are too young. And I know you've been with them. You got fake blood in your hair. You're carrying an Intertech gun. And you're humming the Muscle NES theme song.
How does that go?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of the more the. I feel like what wasn't the soundtrack all kind of just like screeching whistle sounds. No one cares. No one cares.
Okay.
And then Kobe Smulders.
Don't know.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't know her. She's a modern actress. She was on the show How I Met Your Mother, which is not how I know her.
Maine,
and
one of the main people. Is that
I'm not sure because I never see the show, but
Oh.
Alan Thicke was a guest star on it, and she said he was an asshole and a creep.
Yeah. Well, you hear a lot about that, about these, big players in Hollywood.
He was never a big player, but point taken anyway.
Alan Thicke?
I mean, it's not like he was ever in a film. Well, maybe he was. Who knows?
I know we've probably said this before, but for me, like, it was always like those weird celebrities that were huge to me. Like Alan Thicke would have been like A-list
Oh yeah,
for me as a kid. I don't know.
they wouldn't let. But it's like the way the divide was back then. They wouldn't even let Alan Thicke on a movie set. They shoot with one of those trank guns they use on fucking elephants. Sorry. There was also an incident where Leonardo DiCaprio, who was on the 7th season of the show, and by the 7th season of the
Vincent, right?
show, what?
What was his name? Vincent in the show?
No one fucking cares. But by the end of the show, they'd gone from being like one of the top 10 shows for years to really going off a cliff ratings wise. Leo, he saw, and then Leo, of course, would later be in the Pussy Posse with Tobey Maguire, Lucas Haas, and myself. So a bit of a scumbag as well. He saw a cute girl from the wardrobe department, and he was apprehensive about approaching her. He asked Thicke what he could do to pick her up, and Thicke said that there's a contact sheet on the wall with everybody's information. Basically, call sheets still a lot of times have everyone's like phone number and email, so it's a bit of like a stalker thing to like contact someone from the call sheet. But Alan Thicke was like, Leo, look, this is how you can get her number. So just call the number on this sheet, which is a pretty creepy thing to do, especially helping out a young person in that way. But luckily, Leo took the right lessons.
It's creepy, but I feel like if I was 14 and there was yellow pages, it's almost the same thing.
We've been very open about this. If we were 14 and it was the 90s, we would do the same thing, and we just work our way down the call sheet as each person rejected us. I'd be like, no, it's really the PA that I love. And I'm like, oh, they said no too.
I definitely have cold my fair share of girls in the past. Looking
Now we
back,
all,
I wouldn't do it,
yeah.
but then.
And Alan Thicke, just for the record, when he was being wheeled out on a gurney when he had a heart attack at the hockey game, he said, "I have no regrets." So we're a little better than him.
Hmm. I
That's
was
not true.
never, I mean, in my defense, I cold girls, but I was never a creep and I wasn't a stalker. So,
No, I never say anything
uh,
creepy. I just breathed heavy. And now some stuff about, okay, Kirk Cameron. I don't know how much of this whole I should go through, but like, so he got really into his own Christian ministry that he established with this other maniac. And I watched a YouTube video of
was that
them.
Willie Ames? Because he's pretty nuts too.
No, it was his last name is Comfort. Where did I write his first name? Um, but basically they started this ministry and they have all these videos on YouTube where they're like, in this one video I was watching, his partner says it actually takes more faith to be an atheist than to be a Christian because all the evidence for God is there and you're just choosing to ignore it as an atheist. And then what he gave as the evidence was so fucking insane, including like he holds up a banana and he's like, a banana was made by God because it's like such a convenient thing to eat.
Behold the atheist's nightmare. Now, if you study a well-made banana, you'll find on the far side there are 3 ridges. On the close side, 2 ridges. If you get your hand ready to grip a banana, you'll find on the far side there are 3 grooves, on the close side 2 grooves. The banana and the hand are perfectly made one for the other. You'll find the maker of the banana, Almighty God, has made it with a non-slip surface. It has outward indicators of inward contents: green, too early; yellow, just right; black, too late. Now, if you go to the top of the banana, you'll find, as with the soda can makers, they placed a tab at the top. So God has placed a tab at the top. When you pull the tab, the contents don't squirt in your face. You'll find the wrapper, which is biodegradable, has perforations. Notice how gracefully it sits over the human hand. Notice it has a point at the top for ease of entry. It's just the right shape for the human mouth. It's chewy, easy to digest, and it's even curved toward the face to make the whole process so much easier. Seriously, Kirk, the whole of creation testifies to the genius of God's creative hand. It absolutely does.
And then they had a debate with these atheists and hosted by Martin Bashir. Is that his name? Martin Bashir, the guy who had the famous Princess Diana interview?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm like, man, Martin, you really fell down a bit. But the 3 main arguments Cameron and Comfort brought were A, everything has a maker, which B, the existence of the human conscience shows there is a higher moral power, and C, Christ is revealed in the gospel. And critics said that Comfort and Cameron were well-intentioned but unprepared and really lost the debate, but at least they kept a positive demeanor. But those 3 talking points, now this is not a theology podcast, but that's just such crap. And one more thing about him, do you know that he actually became Christian? Actually, I'm not sure if this is, I'm pretty sure it is true though. I think that Chelsea Noble, his wife that he met on the show, I think she was Christian and he converted to be with her. And do you know that he famously throughout his career has always had a kissing double, which means that when he needs to kiss someone in a movie, his wife comes in and will wear like a wig or whatever, and he has to kiss her.
Kiss her. That's interesting. Is that respectable or is it just like insane?
That's insane because it's not real life.
That isn't real life, but
it also artistically hurts everything you're making because it's like, oh, now like we can only ever see that shot from like behind her head.
Yeah, but what respectable thing has he ever made since Growing Pains?
He was in an incredible film called Fireproof.
What?
And I did have a little thing about that, but I can't find it. Yeah, you know, he's only in really bad Christian movies. I watched like a brief clip of one, and yeah, it's quite pathetic. I try to.
Does he still have that church though? Is that how he's like swindling people? Okay, so
I'm sure that's
he's bringing in a lot of money by swindling. So okay.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he's still getting Growing Pains residuals, which he's somehow found a way to not pay taxes on, to like by routing it through the church or something.
We don't want to get a lot of hate. Maybe we should move along.
Oh yeah, let's move along. Let me tell you about this episode, Rusty, because it made me fucking sick. I smashed 4 TVs trying to watch this.
It costs you how much? How much money did you have to spend to get through this?
I can't start adding that up now. So this is the Christmas episode. But before we get into the actual episode, the song, we've probably talked this to death, but what a banger.
There you have it, everyone.
This song, like Cheers, is a montage of photos from throughout throughout history. It starts with basically like King Tut or some shit, and then it goes through like a medieval family and stuff. And I think the idea is like families have always been around and whatnot. But when I was a kid, these historical photos made me like so sad in a weird way. Like, what the fuck was I sad about?
That you never got to live those in that time period.
I never lived in ancient Egypt.
Maybe you did. Maybe you were reincarnated.
Maybe I did. Oh yeah, that's why I did. I was like, that's my wife. I was like, I was the old man in the Cheers thing holding up the We Win newspaper. I just remembered my memories of that place. And Irma. Why did Irma have to die? You don't know what I'm talking about? The Cheers theme song was like the most depressing thing somehow.
No, old time stuff always makes me depressed. It's like for especially like early 20th century photos.
Mm-hmm.
Like just, but it's more along the lines of like you're looking at somebody that's obviously dead by now.
Yeah.
So it's like looking, at somebody that missed out on so much history. So it's more like that along those lines.
Imagine the guy holding up the We Win sign. Imagine showing him an Atari 2600. He'd think it was witchcraft. He couldn't even imagine the power of a PS5 Pro.
Oh my God.
Rusty, so let's get into this piece of shit episode because I don't know what it was about this. Like, I really did not like it. We open and Carol, played by Tracy Gold, who had her own, that's another thing. She had severe anorexia, and was like, frequently her weight was controlled by the writers. They'd be like, you need to put on weight, you need to lose weight. And even though they knew she had an eating disorder, they were making fat jokes within the show. And also, no matter who's
covered that a bit.
Yeah. No matter who's credited as the writer of a show episode, usually the showrunner is like the final rewriter. And so this guy is just evil. Anyway, we're opening up and Carol is assembling a manger. I had one of these as a kid. That's not that weird because I was like a Catholic household, but like, do you remember the mangers with like the statues and everything? Do they still do that?
I don't know. I'm half Jewish. I don't know.
Oh, get out of here.
No, we never did. We were like very loose Protestants, so we never did any of that stuff.
Okay. To me, that was always like, when I was a little kid, that felt like you had a Christmas tree and you had that. Like it was a key component.
Even as a kid, I found that disgusting. So I don't know.
Dude, I found it disgusting too. Cause like the statues that we had were like really ugly, like 60s or 70s made, like probably made of lead somehow. Yeah. Like they just looked disgusting. The wise men kind of like had this like shitting expression on their face. And anyway, so she's opening the box with all the stuff in it. And she's like, now where are my wise men? And Mike,
oh my God, my episode has a wise man joke too.
Oh my God. And Mike, like a complete douche, he says, taking the A train, because he has put the wise men on the tracks of the train they have going around the Christmas tree, which is another old time thing. Mm-hmm. But he says it like he thinks he's such a badass, where he's like, taking the A train. Anyway, so right off the bat, this is a fucking horrible.
Did that get a laugh? Did that get a laugh?
Oh yeah. And the wise, what really makes me sick is the wise men are like, the statues are huge and the train is little. So just like in your little kid, setting things up to smash them brain, you're like, nothing's going to happen there. Like the train will be hurt before these wise men will.
Were they like the big plastic figurines? Like
yeah, but they're like ceramic or whatever they're made out of.
Because I remember there was two kinds. The ones people put outside, and then there was like the indoor display that was like a little more artistic. It had maybe some wood features to it.
Yeah, I wanted to. I should have said from the outset that my family had an indoor display.
Okay.
I always found outdoor displays to be crass and disgusting.
Did your family go to church like regularly?
No, we went on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve and like Easter. And then when my
So you,
aunt was in town, who was like very involved in the church, we would have to pretend that we went. So we'd
I
go to
see.
church. And it really made me sick on vacations because my dad would be like, "Oh yes, we're gonna have to go to the church in Maine." And I was like, "Fuck this." Um, but
Even as a
anyway,
kid though,
oh,
I was just gonna say, even as a kid, I went to like a fun church.
oh yeah, that makes me sick too.
No, I mean, I went to a fun church, but even though it was fun and there was like funny stories and stuff being told, like I hated it. Like that was the last thing I wanted to do with my time. The only thing I enjoyed was our mutual friend Eric belonged to the same church, and he would bring in like D&D figures,
Hmm.
and he had one that was like had orange, I mean not orange, had green tentacles and like an orangey like brain head, and he would like pull it out and make faces, and it would always crack me up.
It was like, and it
Yeah.
was made out of like bendy material.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I know him. Eric was such a like cool kid to me in those early years. That could have redeemed my church experience. Except
Hmm.
like I went to St. William's like a lot of people, and like on Christmas Eve you would always just see the most random kids from school and be like, did God put this person here to punish me?
What does that mean?
It's like, put down the kid he feels weird about seeing. Christmas Eve. Put him in the row behind him for the peace be with you part. That's going to be funny.
I always loved running into kids from school that you didn't really hang out with, but you were a little bit friendly with, and you would see them
Oh
in
yeah.
like in a completely different setting. I remember going to the Sizzler with my parents and running into a classmate, and we had like the most like awkward conversation because it was outside of school. Didn't know
Oh
what
yeah.
to say to one another.
It's like seeing a deer. You're like, oh my God.
I was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, and it had on the back of it, it had Jordan 23.
Hmm.
And he said to me, he thought I was wearing a New Kids on the Block shirt because remember Jordan Knight?
Yeah.
And he said he thought that was really, what kids would say about that. And then he realized it was a
Oh
Bulls
wait.
hat.
Wow. Okay. So this kid
But
was gonna come up and slur you in a physical
yeah, well,
location.
he was thinking it, and then I turned around and he saw that it was me and that it was a Bulls hat. But it's weird that like a 12 year old at that time, what was it, 90? Yeah, so we were like 12. That would be his thought. I guess
Yeah.
that was
Well,
it.
also, why would it be Jordan? Wouldn't it be Knight
Yeah.
23? And also why
I mean,
23? Jordan's not into that at all.
no, but I remember that. It's funny the things you like remember. You hold on to
That's true.
my Sizzler experience.
So back to the drama
Yeah.
as the train is barreling towards these wise men. At the last moment, it goes dead, and they say it's a miracle. But then Jason Seaver, Alan Thicke appears, and he's like, Mike, and he's holding up the extension cord, and this gets a huge laugh. But here's the thing: he's holding up the extension cord, but presumably this is a feature they've all agreed on, and so they probably have a set place to plug it in. So him just holding the extension cord and going, Mike, I don't want to spend all night on this, but you had to be there.
You had to be there.
So then Mike picks up the three wise men and he says, we three kings, we know what we like spending Christmas with our good friend Mike. And he laughs to himself. And it's like, I fucking hate this guy.
He was so corny and he was so popular too.
Oh, yeah. It was. There's another podcast I listen to. I can't remember what it is, but they've talked about this character of like the white schemer kid, I guess, from the 80s.
Every sitcom had that,
Yeah.
right?
Kind
Or
of
most
like
of
a
them, not
Ferris
every.
Bueller, which then kind of morphed into like a Bart Simpson, I guess, on some level. But in this era, it was like a smooth talking, like the most harmless bad boy of all time.
But it's just so weird when that character is like in high school. I mean, I could see it like working better in like Mr. Belvedere, where you have Wesley, who's like an elementary school kid, like a Dennis the Menace type. But when you're like 17 years old and driving, and you're still like doing stuff like that, it's just completely lame.
Oh, yeah. And the shit they give this fucker is so pathetic. So, okay. Now Ben enters and Ben wants to open a Christmas Eve present. This is always a cultural issue. Some
How's that?
families love
Oh.
doing the Christmas Eve present.
Oh, we never did that.
I
We ain't
never
going
did
for
that
that.
either.
Christmas
And
morning all the way.
they say each person's present has a big red bow on it. And that's the one we can open tonight. And Ben says, I've seen everyone else's presents with the big red bow, but I haven't seen mine. Now, we know from the outset, if a box from the 80s had a big red bow on it, there was a puppy inside. And so that's what we're setting up here, that Ben is going to get a puppy. And he doesn't know, but the rest of the family does know. And hold on. Anyway, Ben is excited about this present. It starts to snow outside. They all run to the window. Remember when it used to snow on Christmas, Rusty? Now it's 95 degrees. And Mike is like, wow, what a great, he basically waxes poetically about being there with his family. And they all look at him like, are you nuts? And he says, hey, you think I like being obnoxious all the time? And they all go, uh-huh. Huge laugh in the audience. I was fucking, that's when I first smashed my TV with a hammer.
All right, that's the first one.
That's the first big sequence
is
of
this
the show.
Is this before the theme song, or is this like the opening, or are we already into like developing the plot here? Because I don't know what the plot is yet.
That's an incredible question, because when I was first making my outline, I did call this the cold open, which would be before the credits. But while this feels like a cold open, this is after the credits, because right now the doorbell rings and this is where the plot really begins. Okay. Jason opens the door and it's a guy dressed as Santa. Now, this guy is played by Alan Blumenfeld. You don't know him, but he's the star of over 300 films and tons of TV. I mean, you definitely know his face. He was on a million shows in this era, especially. He originally from Rockville Center.
Oh, I definitely know him now.
Now he's one of Jason's patients, and he
usually dressed like Santa, or is that like just?
No, this is the whole crux of the episode. So Jason is totally there's not a moment where he's like, "Hey, you can't show up, one of my psychiatry patients on Christmas Eve." He's like, he's like, "Oh, Mr. Bodewell, how are you doing? How's it going?" Blah 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 blah. As you know, Megan's in school to be a therapist, and I don't think she'd have a practice at home. But if she did, and one of her clients showed up in a Santa suit, by the end of the week, my house would look like that first G.I. Joe base with like the gun turrets all along the walls. I'd be talking to my neighbors. I'd talk to my neighbors. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that much to buy, but the maintenance is where they get you. Because the missiles are not cheap.
I feel like you could go either way, though. It's either that, where you go from one extreme, or where you're playing like, what is it called? The beanbag game in your backyard.
Cornhole.
Cornhole, yeah. Like, I feel like you could go either way with you.
It's a sad thing that we lost the cornhole naming war, because remember, people used to call it bags on the East Coast. You don't do that. You don't hear that. The cornhole somehow won.
Is cornhole still a thing?
It is in my backyard. I mean, no, cornhole is very much still a thing. I mean, it's like a great game.
Oh, I mean, it's winter here, so I don't know. It's like the cool thing right now.
I've been rationalizing not going outside the entire weekend, even though it's really like 60 degrees.
Oh.
But so anyway, Jason Seaver, he's unfazed by this. He's a great guy. He says, he doesn't care that this could be Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is right in that era of that. He says, Mr. Bodewell, which is a horrific fucking name. I think that molester guy thought he was.
That's like a Twilight Zone name.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Or I was going to say Charles Dickens. He thinks he's Charles Dickens with this. Mr. Bodewell, come and learn about Christmas. So they go into Jason's office, and I don't know if you remember his office, but it has green drapes and then all these shelves, but the walls and the backs of the shelves are also painted green. So the entire office is like green and wood. And I feel like the showrunner must have been like, just make this office green and wood. And the production designer is like, yeah, just fucking do it, dude. I mean, it's very bizarre looking, but you kind of have to see it. But if you do watch this episode, you will be so bored that you'll be looking at the color of the shelves.
It's amazing how boring a 22-minute episode could be, but it happens.
Mr. Bodewell, he's dressed as Santa because he's going to go to this orphanage, but he's worried that he's going to blow it. He doesn't think he has what it takes. Jason says, what's the thing in life that bothers you most in our sessions? And Mr. Bodwell says, those little subscription cards that fall out of magazines.
The antiquated joke.
Yeah,
reference.
Yeah, that was
What's
one
a
of the
magazine?
big concerns. That was one of the big concerns back then. That's what climate change is now. Like, Loaded Weapon had a joke. It would constantly come up. But then he says the truth, which is that it's being alone. And he says, well, these orphans are lonely too. So you're going to go there, you're going to have something to offer them, and you're both going to heal each other. But he doesn't think he's going to be able to handle it. They do some role playing, and the guy, here's the weird thing is this actor, he seems kind of like a blue collar guy. Like I would be like, oh, I bet he played like a plumber in a million shows back then. But he's cast as an accountant here. So the stuff that he's like, oh, here's what I'm going to say to the kids. And then he reads he's like, to whom it may concern, I am here as Santa Claus. And then he brings out the gifts he's going to give them. And it's like ground beef, which is just an insane thing. Like he's just going to give out a gift of like a package of ground beef. Now, I don't know. No one doesn't know kids that well,
Yeah.
And
yeah, you would figure the go-to is toys. Like, I don't know why you'd go to the supermarket.
When Jason says this, I wrote this exchange down. Jason says, ground beef, Mr. Bodwell, go ahead and say it. I should have brought pork. Jason says, well, it's a close call, Walter. Huge laugh. I don't even fucking get what that joke is. I smashed the TV again.
What are the writers thinking with that?
I don't know.
Out of all things to come up with.
He also has Tupperware because he thought it would go with the beef. Jason's like, what about toys? He says, that's so crazy. It just might work. I'm going to get toys. He leaves. So now in the next scene, Carol, the parents are heading off to get the puppy. Carol and Mike know where they're heading, but Ben, he keeps asking like, where are you going? You're going to get my present? Like, what's going on? And Mike says they're going to the blacksmith's. Carol needs new shoes. Now, I think
she's like a horse.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we still have horses. I'm not arguing that. But I feel like that's a joke that you would have gotten back then, but you wouldn't get now. For some reason, I feel like I was seeing horseshoes go on horses' hooves in media back then, like cartoons and stuff. You never see that. I mean, does your daughter know that horses have horseshoes?
I don't think she knows, but I don't.
Wake her up right now and ask her if she knows.
No, get up. I don't think that's like a concern for kids. Like, when did you find that out in life?
Dude, I'm saying I was born, I was conditioned at a young age. It's like, like Woody Woodpecker, shit like that. They'd have like horses getting horseshoes on. I just feel like it doesn't come on. It's
really bizarre that like the amount of shit we know. Like Nova's knowledge is limited. So it's like impressive when she learns something and like retains it. But like it's funny that we had to have learned stuff like that at one time, but we just know, like you're talking about with horseshoes.
I feel like it's just like in that 84 Thanksgiving parade, like in the 80s, there were still these remnants of old culture that it's almost hard to remember now.
Yeah. It's funny though, like with Nova, I said to her, because we got like the Amazon catalog and Target catalog, not like the classic catalogs that we grew up with, but there's something. And I'm telling her, like, you have to let Santa know what you want. So can you circle something? Or I said, can you make a list? And she's just like, I can't write. How can I make a list? And she got like very angry about it. And it's like, that's smart that she knows that she can't make a list. But then I said, well, how about you just circle stuff? And she just went to the baby toys and circled the baby toys and thought that was funny. So it's just like, I'll just figure it out. But I think I told you, but I'll say it. I got her, and Jen has said, is it for her or yourself? I got her an arcade cabinet of Miss Pac-Man and a bunch of other games. I have seen my daughter play video games, and it's a disaster. And I thought I would start easy by introducing her to like Super Mario Brothers for NES. Mm-hmm. And I told her like the control pad, this is how you move. And I was showing her, and I said like, how you jump and how you, once you get the firepower. And her trying to jump on a Goomba, and she's preparing for it. The Goomba's slowly approaching. She's going, okay, jump, jump, jump. And then she hits the jump button, and of course misses. And then the Goomba just walks into her, and she loses interest. But I'm thinking like with those 1981 games like Miss Pac-Man, there's like, that's just pretty much joystick maneuvering. she could handle that, and that would be a good like starting point for their thoughts.
Uh, well, it's weird because I remember when I was 4, I was already deep into games.
Me
But
too.
I don't know if you started her more modern, if she would find it more interesting, or if it's who
She was
knows.
at her cousin's today, and they were playing Mario Kart, and she like freaked out with how hard it was. I feel like I'm not gonna say it was a natural, but like I picked up things pretty quickly. Although we did start with like Pong, so who knows if that's
That's
like you have to
true.
build.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember starting with combat.
That's actually because you need to know angles in that game, and you have to figure that
Yeah.
geometry out. So it is a bit challenging. Yeah, and plus
So
Atari games are pretty difficult to play on. So there was some mastering. I'm going to pat ourselves on the back on this one.
yeah, I feel like the Atari joystick was such shit. It was like,
It really was. I did
um,
like that little rubber centerpiece though. Boy, that
the rubber centerpiece.
yeah, like where the
Oh yeah, I
joystick
can.
would wobble
Yeah,
around and it's like that like I don't know. It had like the folds
yeah.
in it and stuff.
It's like the folds. Something like Cronenbergian sexual about
Yeah.
that joystick. It never occurred to me until now.
And it kind of made that like little sound when you like would move it. It was like that like
Oh, dude,
slurping
I'm
sound.
fucking hard as hell. I've never been this erect.
Well, you tame that bad boy and go back to growing pains. Get
Wow,
back on
it's
track.
like, yeah, but I'm not like a sick bastard. Like I only bang systems older, like as old as like the Magnavox Odyssey.
Nobody gets that reference.
You want me to fuck a Switch? Actually, the Switch is older than you think. What?
I, I actually bought Nova a Switch game for Christmas. I got her the
Oh yeah, that's
Bluey
cool.
like Bluey scavenger hunt game, which I think she could handle that. She really likes games though. She's just not good at them. She has a in the car in her when she's in the car she has like a Game Boy like baby toy, so it just like looks like a Game Boy and makes sounds,
Hmm.
but it's not a real game. And she'll play that and think it's a real game. So I hear her like talking to herself while she's playing it. And it's like, oh God, this is embarrassing for her. She's not even doing anything.
Wow. I have a dream of
Like,
giving my daughter one of my 2 analog pockets, and she'll say, "Daddy, did you used to play with this when you were a baby?" And I'll say, "No, I bought it when I was 45 because of a falsely created limited sense of scarcity, and I was able to get it in my cart, so I had to go through with the order." And then I kind of thought to myself, maybe it's an investment. Maybe I'll sell it someday. Did you sell it someday, Daddy? Well, you're fucking holding it. What do you think? So the parents leave, and this here's another part that makes me sick is Ben, after they leave, Ben goes, "Mike, Carol, Carol, Mike." The classic dealer schemer little kid character from this era. Oh fuck, my phone died. I wanted to send you a video of what happens next. Ben says, "We have to talk to get some answers around here." Mike says, "I'd look for a fat man in a red suit." And then Ben shrugs. And the way he shrugs, I'll have to describe it to you. Both of his shoulders like go over, both of his arms, they go so high. You have to see it. That's why I made the video. But my phone's dead. Anyway, Mr. Bodwell's back. Knock at the door. He's looking for Jason. They say, he just went out. Can you wait a little bit? He says, "I can't wait." He slams the door. Carol says, "He looked unhappy." He actually didn't look unhappy. He looked anxious. Like he looked so energized in a bad way, but unhappy. I don't think so. Now Ben's back and he says, "Mike, Carol, Carol, Mike." I fucking hate this kid. He says, "I've got $1. Why don't you tell me where they went?" And Mike says, "That's not the Christmas spirit. Trying to buy, information about your present." And I think we all know what happens here. Ben then takes out a 10. He says, "How about for a 10?" Mike goes, jingle bells," and takes the money. Oh boy.
God. You know what's a scary thing right now is that I had no idea what you're talking about with this episode. And when you talked about Mr. Bodwell coming back, it triggered something.
Really?
And I think I remember this episode now.
Oh yeah. So
This you're digging back to 1985, so almost
wow.
40 years ago.
Wow. Who knows what we're gonna uncover?
Yeah. Might start sobbing in a few minutes.
So they leave the room and Ben is alone and hears footsteps on the roof. And he's like, What is going on here? He goes to the chimney. He says, "Who's up there?" Mr. Bowell answers, "Who do you think?" and his hat falls down. However, I don't get that line. Who do you think? Because, it's really just that Santa hat. But is it because he just came to the door? So he's like, obviously, I'm the guy who just came to the door. But the act in general is such an incongruous thing. Like, he's going to kill himself by jumping down their chimney.
There's a famous story of somebody that did die that way, that they were looking to break into like a house and they fell down the chimney and got stuck.
Really?
And like, I don't think anybody was home for a while and they got stuck. And, you can imagine what happened next. The families came home. I think they started the fireplace and they noticed a horrible smell, but the person was already perished by then. So it wasn't like they were cooking him or anything. That would freak me the fuck out. Anything stuck like that.
Yeah,
like the Nutty Putty Cave thing we talked about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Nutty Putty Cave. I need to get in there. I need that guy's bones.
You need some alone time?
So basically, we go to the commercial break at that moment. And Ben is talking to Mr. Bodwell. He says, just throw me my present down. He throws down the ground beef.
That actually made me laugh.
Well, they have an exchange here. They have an exchange here that I actually think on the page is totally a joke, because Ben goes, raw meat. Bodwell goes, you got a problem with that? And then he says, well, it wasn't my first choice, which, is very basic dialogue, but it's fine. But the way that Jeremy Miller, Big Ben delivers it like shit. Mike and Carol come in and he's like, come here. And we go to a shot. I love talking about the weird shots in sitcoms. We go to a shot that is like an overhead downward diagonal angle on the fireplace. And it's an angle we never see of this set. And sitcom sets, it's like whenever you see them from another angle, they look like shit. Yeah. And so this shot looks like such shit. Like, you could see how fake it is. And they go to this shot a weird amount of times. So they talk up to the chimney. Mike and Carol are like,
I know what shot you're talking about. Yeah.
Really? Wow. I can't believe the shit I'm unlocking. They say, what are you doing up there? He says, I'm going to dive down your chimney head first. Head first. I feel like that was like an addition. They were like, wait, make him head first. Then he'll definitely die. I'm like, okay, good. Carol says, keep him talking. You're supposed to keep him talking. And Mike says, Mr. Bodwell, come down. We're about to have eggnog. This is another decent joke. We're about to have eggnog. He says, I'm about to kill myself, and you're offering me eggnog? And Mike says, well, it does say festive for all occasions.
That's terrible.
Anyway, Ben tries to relate to him, but he says, none of this is working. All the kids are failing in their efforts. He says, you hate me. Parents get home. They explain what's going on. And now we go to the next, basically the centerpiece of this episode, which is Jason on the roof talking to Mr. Bodwell. And he's like, your problems are temporary, and you're going to have a permanent solution here. And Jason is like, what happened at the orphanage that put you in such a foul mood? And he's like, the kids hated me. And he says, come on, you can't know that. And he says, really? And he turns around to show them that there's a sign on his back that says, this Santa eats fruitcake. Now,
what?
Signs on backs and fruitcake are both very dated things in a weird way. Like, do people still put signs on people's backs in school? I feel like even in our era, it was a bit of a throwback.
Yeah, but you did check your back, I bet, every once in a while.
Dude, I check my back fucking 30 times a class. I still have that tick. And I remember you'd be like walking down the hallway, you see kids check their back, and you'd be like, oh, damn, like, I didn't know that kid was insecure like me. But I think even back then, like a kick me sign or something, that's such like a retro, it's like a thing we knew from like 1950s kind of nostalgia. And fruitcake, I feel like that was a joke in so much media back then, but I haven't heard of fruitcake on any level in years.
Yeah, when we did the Pee-wee's Christmas special, when we talked about that the big joke in that was that he kept getting fruitcakes, and then he built like a wing on his house.
Yeah, I think I remember doing a whole
That's
researched piece on fruitcake too. I remember there's a backstory to it.
I don't remember. I have no memory of that, but
I might just be making that up.
do they
So
still
Jason,
sell them though? Because I do remember being a kid and like going into different store, even in like a department store, you would see the fruitcake. They would
yeah,
have that.
I'm sure if I looked it up right now, there'd be like a 2016 BuzzFeed article that's like, "Forget the jokes, fruitcake's actually amazing." Um,
Yeah.
but so Jason tries to talk him out of it, and he has no success. And now here's the really weird part. Then Jason shifts to like a Lethal Weapon style, like, you want to jump? Let's fucking jump. You want to get nuts? Let's do it. But it kind of predates all the things that I was thinking that it was ripping off. Um, so he ends up jumping. They both jump into chimney, but they get stuck.
Wait,
I
they
mean,
both jump?
they don't really get into it. They get like their bodies like halfway in. Um, and
Chimney's not
then
that wide though. It's not like it's not like a comic strip.
oh well, but it was a set that they built. Um,
Oh.
and so, but then while they're in the chimney, all the storylines come together here because he hears the dog. Mr. Bodwell hears the dog, and he says, "I used to have a dog. I had a German Shepherd." Like the way he says shepherd is really bizarre. Um, and they start talking about the dog with Ben through the chimney, and Ben decides that he'll give him the dog. And I actually admired Ben with this sacrifice because he says, "I'm going to give you the dog," and then there's silence, and he's like, "Mr. Bodwell," and Joanna Kearns, Maggie gets nervous. She's like, "Jason, Jason," and then him and Mr. Bodwell come in the door. He successfully got him down off the roof. And Ben says, "Here you go, take the puppy." And Mr. Bodwell just hugs the puppy. Like he never says, "I don't know if I should take this from a child," or "Are you sure about this?" He just takes the
Yeah, he is.
puppy and hugs it.
Oh, he's having a mental breakdown over there. So
Yeah.
he's
And so
not
now
of sound mind.
we jump forward a little bit in time here and we
Oh my God,
see
this episode's still going. Jesus Christ.
it's almost over. We see Mr. Bodwell. He's giving out the presents. This maniac is now emceeing their Christmas. Everyone's getting presents, and Maggie gets her present from Jason, and it's a toaster. And he says, "Let me show you how it." She's disappointed because she's like, "Great, a toaster." But he says, "Let me show you how it works." And he pops out a jewelry box, and inside are pearls. Now, I don't even think pearls exist anymore. You never hear about those anymore.
No.
But putting presents, like putting an identifiable present in a bigger thing. I'm sure we've talked about this before because my parents loved giving me the clothing box with the 2 Nintendo games in it.
So you did the old man. But you had to have caught on to it at a certain point.
Yeah, because it had a certain weight to it. And my parents never really, I guess they gave me some clothes, but man, when relatives would give you clothes, make me fucking sick. But so this
Bugle
is
boy.
another.
You're like 18 getting Bugle boy.
Oh yeah, pleated khakis. But here's the weird thing: Ben doesn't have a present. Ben's like, "I didn't get a present." So Ben only was going to get one present. Jason says, "Check the bag." Walter says, "Oh no, the bag is empty." But everyone's like, "Check the bag, Mr. Bodwell." I guess like he's very he's long to get the hint, but also like I don't know when they did this without him looking. But the point of the story is there's a second dog, so Ben ends up getting a dog after all, which made me fucking sick because it makes his sacrifice worthless.
Yeah,
And
that's the dumbest thing. I'm outraged
Yeah.
right now.
and Mr. Bodwell comes up to him. His dog is named Nick. He says,
Nick is beautiful.
So's my puppy. I think I'll name her Walter.
but how does he know it's a girl? No one has said it's a girl. Unless he's actively fingering this dog. How could he know?
Well, maybe he checked for the balls. I don't know.
And now we have one last scene.
Yes.
Unless he's
End this, please.
actively fingering. Okay, I am gonna send you. I think I actually sent you this image. Whoops. Hold on. Living in filth. Heard that can hit the ground. It's Dr. Pepper Zero.
No, I still have them in my fridge from when you were here.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't drink soda, but
Okay. Well, fucking get
you'll
off your
have
high
them
horse.
next time you come.
Okay. So the classic outro here, where Ben is coming to look. He's leaving cookies for Santa. He doesn't believe in Santa, but
How old is Ben in this season? Is he like 6, 7?
yeah, I think he's 7.
Okay, I'm not
But
disappointed then.
he's hedging his bets. But then
Yeah,
he hears
fine.
bells and ho 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 in the distance, and the look on his face. I just sent it to you. It's such a weird, like it looks like something out of Hereditary, not like he just saw Santa.
Wait, you just sent it to me?
Yeah, it's on the way.
Okay. Oh, there
But
it is. Oh, he is
yeah.
really young in this. Yeah, he's like 6 or
Oh
7.
yeah. But isn't that a weird look? And that's like the freeze frame that the episode ends on. It looks more like a look of horror.
It's like the face that when you saw that JFK's head was blown apart in Dallas. That's the face you're making. Oh no. That puppy looks like it's wants to be somewhere else as well.
Oh yeah.
I can't
well,
tell is he wearing like the jammies that we used to wear, or is he wearing like a sweater? I can't tell.
He's wearing the jammies that we used to wear.
Okay.
I do
Looks
remember
like
the physical feeling of the footsie pajamas and being like having the vague memory of like, didn't I used to wear them with feet? Didn't I have feet back then?
I never liked the footy pajamas. Like,
Yeah.
my feet need to be free when I'm sleeping.
Oh, dude, me too.
I need that cold blanket on my feet. I can't have anything touching, anything heated around my feet.
Oh,
Do you remember what was? Do you remember heating blankets? Were they heating blankets? What were they called? But that was like a big thing. When we were
Heated blankets. But wait, here's the weird thing: is I feel like I've seen Jen has a heated blanket, doesn't she?
She did. She would keep it in my car for whatever reason because I don't like it too hot.
Wow, so it has to go. The blanket has to go all the way out in the car. Yeah, I can't even have that in my house.
I don't know. It sounded better in my head. No, like I don't like it hot in the car when I drive. So I like in the like the winter time, I don't put the heat on. So she uses the blanket in the car.
Okay, that's even stranger. I get it.
Why?
So wait, she's in the car with you,
Yeah,
and
she puts the
she's
blanket
cold,
on.
and she puts the blanket on and plugs it in.
Yeah, you know the drivers needs to be comfortable. I can't
Oh
be
yeah,
burning
Don't you have
up.
the individual zones.
Yeah, but I mean,
I guess it still gets there.
you know, with my car though, if you do that, like it mixes, like it will
Yeah.
favor. It always favors heat for some
Yeah.
reason.
No, that's true. That's like the non-smoking sections in the
Yeah.
friendlies of our youth.
Yeah, you're getting hit with that smoke.
Well, I remember staying
Whole
over
floor.
one time and she had it, and I was like, "What a throwback!" Like I didn't know they still made those.
It's probably a gift that she got and probably used it on the couch when watching TV or something.
Mhm.
Did she use it where it's on, or she just used it as a blanket?
Hold on, let me check the records I keep about if your wife uses blankets or not. Hold on, there's a lot of pages I have to go back through.
I can wait.
Um,
I'm curious, and this is good content.
Hold on a second.
You know what Jen has now, though?
What?
Oh my god, you got to see this fucking thing she bought. And then I'll let you guess the price. You know how did I tell you that she's been running?
No.
She runs every morning at like 5:30 a.m. to like
Nice.
7:30. She does like a 2-hour run every day.
Wow.
But she does it every day because she has like these goals that she wants to meet, and she's causing herself injuries. So she has a bad knee now and stuff. So she bought these pads that you put your legs into, and it like massages your legs.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like hockey goalie pads. They're like enormous. So if you're wearing them, you obviously can't move. You can't like stand up or anything, and you just and they like squeeze your legs. But they're so insane looking. It makes her look like a freak just laying in bed with them
I
on.
never even heard of anything like this.
So I said, how much did they cost? And like, she actually told me, she's like, oh, $900. I laugh because I'm just like, no, but how much did they really cost? And she's like, $900. I'm just like, you spent $900 on massage pants?
Oh,
But that's
but
what
they're
they were.
only pants, right? It's
Yeah,
not
they're
like a whole
like-
suit.
It's not
Like the
pants, though. It's
project.
like individual legs, but it looks like hockey goalie pads that go up to your crotch. But it
Okay.
covers your whole foot and everything. And it just it like squeezes your leg. So it's supposed to like break up like the lactic acid and stuff. And any cramping and all that stuff. So she comes home, works, comes home from that, and then she goes in her magic pants for like an hour.
Wow.
I can't do anything. I'm in my pants. I'm still looking at Ben's face right now. Why have I not closed this?
All right. Well, I think that brings us to your episode, Rusty.
What a stark contrast my episode is. Especially like, I mean, the cast and like everybody loved each other. Everyone speaks fondly of one another. And meanwhile, dealing with a disaster cast.
Yeah. And it's sad too, because Mr. Belvedere never reached the heights that Growing Pains did in terms of popularity.
Mr. Belvedere, yeah. Even like ABC knew it was ABC, right?
Yeah.
ABC knew wasn't a good show. Barely top 30, they said. And it shows because the production value looks pretty bad. But even a lot of the wardrobe was recycled throughout the seasons. So they were
I
pump money.
don't know why I was reading about Mr. Belvedere, but I did read that the oldest brother, wore the same outfit in the pilot as he does in the final episode. Like that's how limited the wardrobe was.
Yeah, I think he directed the final episode too, or at least the first part of it, and was that his choice? He said, still fitted to it.
I think because we should say that the oldest brother was played by Christopher Nolan. He went on to a big career.
Wait, what are we talking about? Christopher Nolan?
No, I just made that up. Mr. Belvedere, but you can't be British too. Okay, so who was Mr. Belvedere?
Well, you want me to
start
get into
the
episode first, or Mr. Belvedere? It's also was called A Christmas Story.
Wow,
there are some parallels between your episode and mine, where the youngest child makes sacrifice. The air date was December 18th, 1987.
December 18th. Okay.
I know, right? I mean, it's rare nowadays for Christmas episodes to air right before Christmas. Usually they air in like November now. Basically, the plot's pretty basic. It's, the Owens family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We never did a Mr. Belvedere 30 minutes or less, right?
No.
So basically, the premise of the show is that, it's upper middle class family. Both parents are working and they need help raising the kids. So they hire a housekeeper who turns out to be Mr. Belvedere. So the family is the Owens family. So in this episode, the Owens family is getting ready to celebrate another Christmas when they find out that Mr. Belvedere wants to spend it alone. Wesley, the youngest son, he wants to find out why. Oh, you love Bryce Beckham? He wants to find out why Mr. Belvedere wants to spend it alone. And upon his investigation, he discovers that Mr. Belvedere has a secret past, and he wants to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
This episode was directed by Don Corvin. I'm sure you don't know who that is.
No.
He was an assistant on many things, but he did direct quite a few episodes of Mr. Belvedere, and if you remember the show Alice.
Alice, yeah.
But in 1990, this show only lasted half a season, I believe. He directed a show called Babes. I don't remember that show at all. And it starred Wendy Jo Sperber, Susan Peretz, and Leslie Boone. Kind of, B to almost A-list names like at that time period.
I've never heard of any of them.
Wendy Jo Sperber, you never heard of her?
No.
She died kind of young, but she was, she had a small part in Back to the Future, but she was like one of the sisters. No, the only sister, because he had the brother. She was also in like Bachelor Party and other things like that. Susan Peretz was in Dog Day Afternoon, Retribution, Poltergeist 2. And Leslie Boone was on a bunch of shows like Ed, Doogie Howser, Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere. Still works to this day. Mm. And then, one of the writers of this episode, Jeff Stein. Do you know that name?
No.
I was shocked to find out what else he directed. He directed 2 huge music videos.
Really?
And one of them is my daughter's favorite music video. He directed Rebel Yell by Billy Idol
Mhm.
and Don't Come Around Here No More by Tom Petty. If you remember that video, it's the Alice in Wonderland themed video.
Oh yeah, okay. That was a huge video.
Yeah, Nova's always just like, I want to watch the Mad Hatter video. That's because Tom Petty is portraying the Mad Hatter character.
Mhm.
And she loves it. Like we watch that like at least once every other day, sometimes more than that. But I was interested to see that those are the only two music videos he directed, but pretty big ones.
Do you know who directed the Dancing with Myself video?
No, I don't know. I know the video well.
I'm like really trying to Google it as like, because I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, okay. We have confirmation. Toby Hooper.
Oh, I did know that. I did know that. That's cool.
So okay, sorry. Go on.
Do you know anything about the origins of Belvedere? Or, I mean, I'm sure.
I've looked it up a couple times and I cannot remember. I think that it's a character that's been around for some time, right?
Yeah, it was developed by Gwen Davenport, who wrote a novel in 1947, and it's kind of similar base. The character of Belvedere is a little bit different, and the family's different. It's like, husband, wife with some kids, but she's kind of just a frustrated housewife that wants help with the boys and baby girl. So they're looking for a nanny, and they see somebody named Lynn Belvedere, and assuming it's a female, they hire them, and only to be greeted by a very self-centered, like kind of narcissistic person with Mr. Belvedere. A little bit different than the one that Christopher Hewitt plays on the sitcom. But the interesting thing is that they actually tried and failed 3 times to get a show made based on this.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember this.
I mean, you weren't alive. This was in the 60s, the 50s and 60s.
No, I remember reading about it, not living through it.
But
oh my God, on my second try at Belvedere failed.
Yeah. They had a few movies like the Mr. Belvedere Rings. What is it called? Mr. Belvedere Rings something, or Mr. Belvedere Goes to College. Mr. Belvedere Rings the Bell.
I'm gonna watch all of these.
And it starred Clifton Webb. Clifton Webb was younger than Mr. Belvedere's character, like at the time. So that's why Christopher Hewlett decided to take it in a completely different direction. But he was described, according to the novelist, that he was immensely tall with a narrow, emaciated body, with deep-set burning eyes and a pallid face, high slanted cheekbones, and black hair that sprang from a bulbous forehead.
Dude, this is Waluigi. Well, maybe not a bulbous forehead.
Not the bulbous.
I was trying to cut in quicker. I should have.
Yes. So it's really nothing like the Christopher Hewitt character. But the multiple attempts that failed, the first one, I believe, was in 1956 with Reginald Gardner. But the last one, which was in 1965, they tried it with Victor Buono. I think that's how you say his name. And I know him as King Tut in the 60s Batman show.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. It wasn't successful until they tried again in 1985, obviously.
Well, Christopher Hewitt, what's his story? Did he fight in World War II?
He actually was in the Royal Air Force, but in the show or in real life?
In real life.
In both. Okay. In the show, he did fight in World War II, but in real life, he was in the Royal Air Force, but he left in 1941. So I don't know if he saw any combat.
Howard.
I think he was present during the Blitz. So he did see some heavy German bombardment. So does have some stories to share. But Christopher Hewitt had a very successful career leading up to Mr. Belvedere.
Really? I can't think of what else I've seen him in.
He was a Tony Award winner for, I think, Peter Pan was it Sandy Duncan or Mary Martin? One of them.
Oh my God. My dad told me about that production of Peter Pan like every 3 months my entire childhood. He's like, and Sandy Duncan, she's a woman, but she played Peter Pan. Was he Captain Hook?
He was Captain Hook. Yeah.
Okay.
But he was also.
Sorry to jump in here, but it's the one thing I know about him. Didn't he die on like September 9th, 2001?
He did die in 2001. I don't know the exact date.
I think it's like right before 9/11, but keep going
Imagine that.
and I'll.
Well, it's like what we said earlier, like the people that like you said pre-World War II that they didn't know was coming their way. Christopher
Oh
Hewitt
yeah.
died without having any
Okay. Well,
idea.
I'm going to be Googling it with one hand as I hold the mic. So it's going to take me about 20 minutes. So go on.
Well, he was also in The Producers, which I always forget about because I watched that once in my life.
Yeah, I've actually never been that big into that
Yeah.
movie. I
But he
find
was
it
the
offensive.
theater director, Roger Debris.
Really? And he died August 3rd, 2001.
Okay. Well, he never knew.
He never knew. All right, go on.
Yeah, he did. Okay. He played Captain Hook to Sandy Duncan. So it was Sandy Duncan. He was also played Mr. Rourke, a sidekick on the final season of Fantasy Island. Was, I guess, Hervey Villachet was already deceased by that time, right? So they had to get another sidekick. So, yeah, so he has a pretty impressive career. I think he also did some directing as well. But I didn't really know anything of Christopher Hewitt until Mr. Belvedere, so that's what I equate him to.
I see that he was a lifelong bachelor, so I like the sound of that.
Well, he's also a devout Catholic, so I'm guessing he was definitely closeted. If you're a devout Catholic and lifelong bachelor,
Yeah, probably.
I feel like that could have been your fate.
Okay, slow down.
You know, interestingly, he died in 2001, but in 2004, he was nominated for TV Land's Best Broadcast Butler Award. But he did lose. Do you want to know who the other nominees were and see if you could guess who won?
I can't think of a single one, but let's hear him.
There was the Sebastian Cabot in Family Affair. Don't
Okay.
know much about that show. I also nominated the actor who played Lurch in Addams Family.
Okay.
Joseph
Definitely not gonna
Joseph Marcel in Fresh Prince. That was Jeffrey.
Oh yeah.
And Robert Guillaume in Soap.
Oh, Robert Guillaume must have won.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought, but it was actually Sebastian Cabot in Family Affair. So what does TV Land know?
I never heard of the actor nor the show.
You know, there's a famous story about Mr. Belvedere on the set of during one of the table readings, I think it was, that involves Adam Sandler because he was a cast member of Mr. Belvedere.
That's shocking. Wow.
And the comedian Jay Moore loves to tell the story. Jay Moore, that's a name you never hear anymore. But Adam Sandler tells a story about that. They were doing the table reading, and everybody was waiting for Christopher Hewitt to arrive. And eventually he walks in, and he's wearing a sweatsuit and a matching monogrammed attaché case. And when Mr. Belvedere, he says to everybody, "Good morning." I can't do his voice, but you know the voice. "Good morning, everybody." And then he sat down and sat on his testicles and then screamed out, "Oh, ho, ho," and had to be carried out on a stretcher.
Carried out on a stretcher. Sat on his testicles.
He was out of commission for a week. And Jeff Stein has confirmed this.
Okay.
But in my research of this about Adam Sandler and Jay Moore, who were both Saturday Night Live alum, that there was actually a Mr. Belvedere sketch, which was Tom Hanks was in. Tom Hanks played a president of the Mr. Belvedere fan club. I watched the sketch, and the premise was pretty good. It could have been a lot funnier, but it was one of those failed sketches that I'm sure you're more than familiar with. But basically, like all the members were kind of like sick in the head where they want to do harm to Christopher Hewitt in some way, like to lock him up in their basement or to like kill him. And Tom Hanks is like, no, we can't do that. We love Mr. Belvedere. And then Tim Meadows, who's there, is just like, "You people make me sick." And then they eventually lock him up in the basement. Yeah, you're not laughing.
Can't believe I'm gonna waste 3 minutes of my life watching this after this.
It's 7 minutes.
Wow.
It's 7 minutes that you'll have to waste. What else was I going to say about this episode? Oh, so I'll start with the opening scene. I mean, the writers were really going for some big hilarity in this opener. I was laughing so hard I could hardly breathe.
Tell me about it. I can't wait to hear.
Okay, it starts with the Owens family. They're all sitting in the living room. They're setting up for Christmas. And Wesley unfurls this gigantic, oversized stocking with his name on it. And you know what of course, he's going to say. after he finds it. He says, I remember it being bigger, even though it's like ridiculous. You're not laughing.
I love it.
Now
I always had smaller stockings. You had to like put the presents like just above them. You know?
Oh, I know.
As a kid, it was something to be like, I wish this stuff could go in the stocking like in the cartoons.
Now, I found out from a Rob Stone interview that this was filmed in front of a live studioed audience. I thought for sure with a low budget they had a laugh track.
I think they used audiences for pretty much everything, but they they used the laugh track to like supplement it.
The laugh track was going, the crowd was going nuts for these jokes.
Well, they had a stand-up comedian warming them up. Probably an old British friend of Mr. Belvedere's who was just doing stuff about tea. No, I don't even know. But they do always have the stand-ups who do that.
Who do you think they would have on the set of Mr. Belvedere back in 1987? Jerry
Probably
Seinfeld?
like someone who opened for Paula Poundstone. I have no idea. All I know is one time, I think I've been in studio audiences twice, and only from because I knew someone on the show or never as like a tourist. But one time the stand-up comedian tried to basically do crowd work with me. I just gave her nothing. I just gray rocked her. I had to stay back. Ruined her life.
She's cursing you somewhere.
No, she's like, that's when I left comedy. I told this guy he had very blue eyes. He just looked at me.
You know, I'll give them credit though. It's kind of funny that the oversized stocking remains like on the mantle the entire episode. So it wasn't just for that like cheap joke.
Oh yeah, it's like when in video games they finally started leaving the bodies there. I was so thrilled as a kid.
I feel like a lot of shows had that trope though of the oversized stocking.
Well, you know, big stocking ran everything back then.
Oh, big stocking.
Big stocking.
And then, you know, George Owens, played by Bob Uecker. I'll get into him in a second. But he comes lumbering in with a cardboard box with the three wise men in it. There's your connection to Growing Pains, the three wise men. And he's acting like he's seeing this box for the first time. And he's like, hey, Marcia, played by Eileen Graff. He's just like, where do I put them? And she's just like, I don't know, George. Maybe in the manger? You're not laughing. You're not laughing. And then George says, well, I don't get this joke. Because he's like, I'm either out of shape or Larry, Moe, and Curly have been scarfing ding-dongs all summer.
You don't get that joke?
Well, I get it, but like, it's not a very good joke. The crowd loved it though. So Bob Uecker, though, I'm sure you know a little bit about Bob Uecker. Obviously,
all I know is every time my father would walk past Mr. Belvedere, he'd be like, Bob Uecker, he was a baseball player. But I'm pretty sure he was like a not great baseball player, right? Or was he good? I have no idea.
No, he wasn't good. He played for the Braves, but his like biggest moment was getting a home run off of Sandy Koufax, who he does mention in this episode. So I wonder if there's a reason for that. The character of George was actually originally in construction, but they later changed it to broadcasting to kind of parallel his own personal life, which he was a broadcaster for the Brewers. Now, he's also famous for obviously being in the movie Major League, which played the same kind of character.
Oh, yeah.
But a cast and crew had nothing but nice things to say about Bob Uecker. Always a pleasure to be on set. Yeah, make jokes. Now, they did receive one Emmy, believe it or not, and it was for lighting. So Bob Uecker would joke about that a lot during the recordings, about talking about how to light things, even though he knew that the person was the Emmy winner. People loved it.
I love it too.
But you know that Christopher Hewitt, Mr. Belvedere, and George always butted heads throughout each episode. But in real life, they were nothing but good friends.
I'd love to hear that.
He loves it.
In general, it always seemed a little weird because what was because the family worked, so that's why they had to get Mr. Belvedere. It just seemed like
the premise. I watched the plot for this because I couldn't remember how exactly they got Mr. Belvedere, and I didn't know if it was the same.
You mean you watched the pilot?
The pilot. What did I say?
Plot.
Oh, I watched the pilot. I was reading something. I was saying that. I watched the pilot to kind of get a better understanding of how it came to be that he was employed by them. And it's very different than the movie, is that they're kind of looking for help because Marcia, the mother, is in law school and George is in construction. So they wanted some help just to do some basic house cleaning and maybe make some meals since Kevin and the other kids are very inept at that. And they put a listing in with the agency, but Christopher Hewitt, who's down on his luck, finds it and just shows up at their house. So he wasn't even recommended. He just turns up, and it's during a blizzard. So they wind up letting him stay. And as he's staying there during the blizzard, he imparts some wisdom on the kids. So they kind of plead with the parents to let him stay there. But George wanted nothing to do with
him. He
him.
famously comes in and drop kicks his jacket.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to get to the theme song in 1 second.
Okay.
The last joke of the opener is that Marcia, played by Eileen Graff, as I said, but do you know that she was a real life singer?
No.
I lost my, give me 1 second. Where is it? How do I?
Okay, I'll vamp during this. I bet she had a beautiful voice. I'm going to get into all of her stuff.
Oh man, I moved all my notes around.
I'm going to fucking kill you.
I had 13 pages of notes. What the fuck did I do with that? Graph. Where the fuck did I put it? It's on. Oh, here it is. It's E, section E. Eileen Graff. Did you know? Eileen Graff is a singer and a Broadway star. She was in hits like Promises, Promises, and Grease.
Wow. So many of these people were Broadway stars. It's like,
I know.
You look back on the stars of sitcoms of our youth and you just think like, oh, they were just some loser actor you never saw again. It was like they actually had a full, rich career.
I know a lot of people that act always tell, up and comers like start off on like live shows, start doing like Broadway shows and stuff, and then come back to acting.
Yeah.
Like that's where you get your footing. So I think that's was the advice back in the day. I don't know. I'm not anywhere near that business. I have no idea.
Yeah. I have heard in the past, like some actors do like to start out in New York.
Yeah.
But who knows? Now they start out in the front facing camera biz.
It's true.
TikTok makes me fucking sick. Anyway, what about this beautiful lady and her voice?
I think she is beautiful. She was the daughter of Jerry Graff. She is the daughter of Jerry Graff. She's still with us. Who was a member of the Pied Pipers. Now, they had many members over the years, but some of the famous ones were Frank Sinatra,
okay,
Joe Stafford.
I was like, is this a gang? Is it a terror group? Is it
and Tommy Dorsey, music that you would fucking never listen to.
Oh my God, what legends. Great group of guys eating fucking spaghetti. Got that on the Victrola. I want to throw a fucking grenade at that.
Now, I noticed with this episode, from 1987, it makes a lot of references to past icons, and I'm not sure, like you were saying with the Macy's Day Parade, where it throws back to the 40s kind of stuff. Like, is that just like a thing back in the 80s, like just like throwbacks?
I mean, it's just like if we mentioned, Billy Idol now, that would be like mentioning, I can't even think of who that'd be mentioning, W.C. Fields. But it's just, I'm always, like we used to watch Hollywood Squares as kids, and there were like the old, like faded. It's so weird how we were still, I can't believe Cary Grant was still alive when we were alive.
Yeah. Yeah, like Hollywood Square Poland.
Gotta check that death date.
I thought he did die in was it early 80s or late 70s?
Oh, I think it was early 80s, 86.
But the last part of the cold opener is Marcia pulls out a 30-year-old popcorn ball that was supposed to be Elvis.
Balls. This was another thing from all these shows. I never even seen a popcorn ball.
I never did either. I don't know. I think it's like maybe a Midwest thing or something.
Yeah.
We don't do that in the East Coast.
Wait a second. Cary Grant was at a theater in Davenport, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, wasn't Davenport the name of the Belvedere creator?
Yes. That's fucking freaking me out.
Wait, and he was taken to the Black Hawk Hotel. Dude, I'm wearing a Chicago Blackhawks jersey right now. Actually, I'm wearing my Atari Star Wars shirt, which when I first bought it not that long ago was really big on me. And now I'm fucking busted out.
Now you're like a Garbage Pail Kid in it, where it's just like barely over your belly.
Oh my God. Wait, I gave, not to get off topic here, but when I sent you that photo of Emma Roberts pretending to like a Garbage Pail Kid card, didn't that make you sick? What a poser.
I forgot my comment, but I like that.
There's no way that Emma Roberts likes the Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
She would pick on them mercilessly. She'd be like, fucking kill yourself, messy Tessie.
Messy so you went with a.
I couldn't. Oh, dude! Right before I said that was a pure fear in my mind. I was like, think of one. Think of one. I couldn't think of any.
Nah, couldn't even think of Evil Eddie, one of the most famous ones.
Oh my god! I was wearing the shirt of that yesterday. Megan's dad was like, "Garbage pail kid." He's like reading my shirt. I'm like, "Evil Eddie." It's Evil Eddie.
I love when people comment on like shirts and you get embarrassed, and then you're like, "I'm never wearing this shirt again." That's it.
Well, the thing is, like, it's like all of my like most embarrassing bedtime shirts are just becoming my main wardrobe. And like now I'm gonna have a kid. I'm like, oh my god, my life went down the tube so fast. Unless I get like back in shape.
You know, the weird thing with having a kid, you really you put your kid before yourself. So I rarely buy myself clothes. I just ordered some t-shirts from TeePublic. I can't wait to see that disaster shipment arrive.
I told you that I got like a Double Dragon 2 shirt from like TeePublic, and when I put it on, it infects me.
I told you I bought the Blood Rage shirt.
Oh yeah, I have a Blood Rage shirt that I don't fit into.
It's probably
right
the same one. It's got to be the same one.
Does it have Terry on the front, like with a machete, and it's like?
Yep. Yes, I know.
Okay.
Not the box cover, all right? It's like a drawing kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's a drawing. Yeah. We should wear both of those shirts and go to like the mall and start trouble.
Jump off the ledge. I don't know what I was saying about. You know what? I don't know if you ever got.
Wait, hold on. I don't know if you ever got to the last joke of this episode.
Oh, is that where I was? Marsha pulls out the 30-year-old popcorn ball that's supposed to resemble Elvis. And the family's like freaking out that they still have it. And she's like, it's tradition. So, and then she's like, but wait, somebody's taking a bite out of it. And Wesley's just like, don't you remember last year when Mr. Belvedere chipped his tooth? These jokes are awful, right?
Yeah, I can barely see the joke.
And then finally, the big moment, Mr. Belvedere walks in with Kevin. They're carrying the Christmas tree. And it's an extra large tree. And George is like, wow, you guys really picked out a big one this year. And he's like, I wanted the aluminum tree. Aluminum trees were like a 70s thing. They were not in the 80s, right?
Also, that Mr. Belvedere says that. He doesn't seem like his character. It seems like he'd always want like a real tree.
Yeah, I know. He's like very classic British. Why would he want an aluminum tree? So after all the hilarity dies down, we now get a very dour Mr. Belvedere. And he tells the family that he will not be celebrating Christmas with them this year. And he will be absent from the festivities. The family's all shocked by this. They're like, what is going on? And he says he just wants a day off and he will be spending it alone. And then, you know what? The theme song kicks in.
I can't wait till my daughter's old enough for me to tell her this. And I'll be spending it alone. Oh, I love the theme song. Go on.
Now, I want to ask you before I tell you a little about the theme song, where do you rank it in your all-time list? Now, I know you're a huge Growing Pains.
Yeah, I rank it top 5. I
do like it, even though
I have like a playlist, like a running playlist that has that, Growing Pains, Golden Girls. I can't remember the other one, but it's like those are like the top ones.
Golden Girls is like one of the songs when I was younger and I would hear it and I was like, this is so beautiful. And I would like, I could cry.
Me too. Mr. Belvedere's more like getting me psyched up for the big game.
Well, they use the line, drop kick your jacket.
Yeah.
Streaks on the China.
Yeah. And the thing that I remember from, we didn't talk about it, but I think I mentioned this, that the singer of that song is younger than we are. I mean, when he sung it, I think he was 37. Well,
in the pilot episode of Mr. Belvedere, the songwriter actually sings the version. It's a lot different. It's the same lyrics, but it's a different tone. The one that we know and love is by Leon Redbone, who's famous for doing a duet with Zooey Deschanel, doing Baby It's Cold Outside. Now, they attribute it to the Elf movie, so I don't know if it's on the soundtrack, because in the movie, I remember Will Ferrell's character sings it with her when they're like in the bathroom. So I don't know. I'm not a big Elf fan, so I don't know where that version is, but
I give it like 3 years before you are saying, oh, it's pretty good.
Like I did with Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
You know what I always like too, though? Perfect Strangers theme song. That's another one.
Oh, that is another one. For some reason, that one was like not on Spotify for a while. You had to go to YouTube for that one.
Did they have the full version of that?
I believe they do.
You know, like the end part where it kicks back in?
Yeah, of course.
That could bring a tear to your eye. It's beautiful.
My God. It's just sad now because Trump's expelling everyone from Mypos. They've been here for years. They're not assimilating. They still don't know what Cousin Larry's talking about. Very obvious things. It's disgusting. The mix-ups are just unbelievable. Even as a kid, that wasn't bit much. Okay.
But anyway, so the theme song was written by Gary. You're going to freak out by this trivia I'm about to hit you with.
I better.
It was co-written by Gary Portnoy and Hart Angelo.
Okay.
They are famous for writing another song that you probably love, Where Everybody Knows Your Name, the Cheers theme song.
Okay, that is impressive.
Now, this is really going to blow your mind now. Gary Portnoy sings that version, so that's his voice. But he's also famous for singing the Punky Brewster theme song. Now, if you listen to those two songs back to back, it's the same as that guy. You could tell it's him, his voice.
I can't place the Punky Brewster song.
I'm not singing it, but that's kind of the melody.
Okay.
I probably butchered that.
That was not helpful on any level. I'm pretty sure like the first lyric was about like someone coming into your life, right?
I don't know. Dude, okay. I just work here.
Well, keep going. I'm Googling the lyrics.
Well, that's all I have on the theme song, but that's pretty crazy that the connection. Like, I would never have thought that the same singer sung the Cheers theme song, which is to me is a huge hit.
Oh yeah,
everybody knows that.
As iconic. Oh, every time
Bruce is like the B-side.
Yeah, every time I turn around, yeah. Man, it's like the rhyme scheme on these songs is like so simple. It reminds me of like a poem that Nova will probably write in school next year.
You want to sing it to me?
Sometimes you can't be sure of anything anymore.
All right, so where am I? So comes back in after the theme song. The Owens family is on the couch opening Christmas cards. We're going to hit. This is like your episode. I really think every 80s sitcom like that was kind of cheesed used the same formula because it hits the same like marks. And it's like the same thing before they get into the plot. They're on the couch opening Christmas cards, and there's some references, a lot of references to like the historical people I was saying. But basically, Marcia is opening the first card, and she's reading it about their neighbor sent them. And it's about a mixed breed that they're trying to get rid of, a mixed breed dog named Charo. Now, I didn't know if that was reference to the flamenco singer. I don't know why I said that weird, but flamenco singer.
Yeah.
I watched a video of Charo not that long ago when she was like on an old 60s show. She is like an insanely amazing guitarist.
I've never heard of this performer before. Charo?
You know the one that does like Gucci, Gucci, Gucci?
No.
She was on the Pee-wee's Christmas special. She sang Feliz Navidad.
Okay.
I had a whole thing about her. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember. It was a beautiful material. So they make a reference to Charo.
Well, not Charo, but that's the name of the mixed breed dog.
Okay.
And I guess it had puppies. So she shows George one of the puppies and says, it's a mix between a St. Bernard and a Chihuahua. And he looks at the picture and he's just like, yuck.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm just...
No, I don't. Then Heather, the middle sibling, she opens the Christmas card from another neighbor. And she's like, hey, this one just has $20 in it. And Marcia quickly jumps in and she says, it's a bribe to keep Wesley out of their yard. And it's like such a thing like Wesley's like the Bart Simpson, the Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
But he's like a good kid at heart. Like they always reference bad things he's doing, but he's like not that bad of a kid.
Yeah. It's so hard to maintain that too. Like when they have a kid playing pranks like every episode, you'd be like, this is fuck.
Yeah. Like Kevin's more of the issue. Like he's just like kind of the dummy.
This is the oldest brother?
Yeah, yeah. So there's Kevin, Heather, and Wesley. And so then finally Mr. Belvedere strolls back in and reveals that he has other plans. Again, they're getting really pushy with him. They want him to spend Christmas with them because he's part of the family. But he's like, I choose to spend it alone. Now, my issue with this is the fourth season. You would think after 4 seasons or 4 Christmases that we're aware of as an audience that they know his routine on Christmas Day, that he wants to be left alone. But I feel like every sitcom just conveniently erases like, past episodes.
Oh yeah, of course. Like the famous Simpsons joke about that.
Yeah. So, and that's it for that scene. So the next thing, we got Wesley coming down the stairs and suddenly he's wearing a yarmulke. and he tells his parents that he's become Jewish.
Okay, we're in
Marsha's
risky
like-
territory here.
Yeah, Marsha's like, you just don't become Jewish. To which he replies, Sammy Davis Jr. did. Another reference.
Lost to time.
Was he dead by then in 87? He had to be dead close to that
Well,
time
I
period.
believe, wasn't he the first of the Rat Pack to die?
Well, I don't know about Joey Crawford and Joey Bishop, but yeah, Frank Sinatra was 90s and so was Dean Martin.
He died May 16th, 1990.
Oh, he made it to the 90s.
Man, and he's at Forest Lawn. Basically, like every
Yeah.
celebrities at Forest Lawn. It's so weird because it's like pretty close to me. It's weird to think that I'm close to all these dead famous bodies.
Start digging them up, see what you can find.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that became your collection. You just had all their skulls. Like,
Sammy Davis Jr. I bet he was buried with a pretty nice watch.
yeah. Yeah. Get that eyeball. That's still intact.
People be like, "Oh, so you lost all that weight? Like, how'd you get in shape?" I'm like, fucking digging graves.
Do you remember as a kid though, like your idea of celebrity was so much more grand than it is now? Like to me as a kid, Sammy Davis Jr. was like the epitome of celebrity, even though I only knew him from that Candyman song from the 70s.
Wait, say it again. I was reading about the reason he converted to Judaism because he got in a car accident, and it was when he'd been wearing is it a mezuzah? Is that how you pronounce it? And it was like
I know what you're about, yeah.
the one time he didn't wear it was the night of the accident. Wait, so sorry. Who were you just saying?
I was saying how like when we were kids, like, all right, the way we identified celebrity was so much more grand than it is now.
Oh yeah, my God.
And that like to me, Sammy Davis Jr. was like the epitome of like celebrity, even though I only knew him from that Candyman song, which was like, you know, a 1970s song. But I was just like, if like there's like made any reference, I'm just like, oh yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. He's big time. I didn't even really know the Rat Pack.
I remember when they would have like the Circus of the Stars. I would never think that like this is some network event where they're just promoting their. I was like, they have like all the legends have decided to have this contest.
They would always bring out some of those like 70s people, like Larry Hagman, these old time, and you'd be like, wow.
You really would be. That's the funniest thing.
I know. I would like this, like Bob Uecker. Mr. Belvedere, I used to think he was like a big name.
Oh yeah, me too. Oh, he always existed in kind of a weird place though, because even on the show, you kind of feel like, is this guy an actor? Like what is like?
Yeah. All right. So where was I at? Oh, Wesley came down. But I thought for sure when he says Sammy Davis Jr. did, I thought it was a laugh track because of the explosion with laughter. Like people had to be rolling on the floors at that joke.
Wow. I have to say, I'm intrigued by why Mr. Belvedere is not celebrating Christmas. Just so you know, this is building to an exciting place.
I am going to tease this. Okay, so Mr. Belvedere walks in as Wesley's wearing the yarmulke, and he's too smart for Wesley. You know, he knows his antics. So he's just like, does this have anything to do with 8 days of gifts? And Wesley immediately starts pouting and says, I thought there was 9 days.
Okay, not that bad of a joke.
So now we're in the kitchen. I mean, this is just jumping from scene to scene here. Kevin comes in, and he's trying to butter up Mr. Belvedere by talking about how wonderful he is and that he's got such Christmas spirit and he needs to spend time with the family for Christmas because we all, you know, they all love having him around. Mr. Belvedere is on to him, and he finally reveals it's because if Mr. Belvedere comes to Christmas, he has an excuse to leave and go to the Poconos for skiing. And he explains to Mr. Belvedere that there's a girl that he likes in their sorority, where there'll be a lot of sorority girls, that he likes this girl and she kind of likes him, but she also likes another guy. So he has to go there to compete with the other guy that's going. I feel like I lived that life. What about you? You know, when he says that, when he's talking about like the sorority, then the guy, him liking a girl and a girl like another guy, I want to see that episode. That sequence. I was thinking of like Better Off Dead meets The Last Christmas Video, which I told you had to watch.
It's crazy how like when you're a little kid and you're watching stuff where a guy like likes a girl, it's like you're sometimes you like physically ache if you like that girl too. I remember Charles in Charge, Gwendolyn Pierce. Yeah. Oh my God.
I was never a Gwendolyn Pierce fan though.
Really?
Never liked her. Yeah.
Kill yourself. All right, go on.
You know what video you need to watch, by the way, if you want to get a little misty-eyed?
What is it?
He's a French artist. His name is Jean-Jacques Goldman.
Yeah.
And the song is called Patois.
Okay.
Watch that video. You'll fucking cry. You'll
Wow.
you'll be at least a little depressed for sure.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Do it. I want to hear back from you on that. All right, so we're back to Wesley again. We're jumping back to him. They're bringing in these like subplots and dropping them pretty quickly in this episode too. So we got Wesley. He's really amping up his newfound Jewish identity. He comes into the living room singing the dreidel song.
Oh, I hated that song.
Whoa! I'm part Jewish, you know. Go easy.
I hated it so much that I got in trouble for being anti-Semitic, but I did not know it was. I did not know a dreidel was about being Jewish. I just thought the song was lame. I made it out of clay. Like, fuck that. But I did not know. I had no idea his connection to Judaism.
You get the pass.
We sang it in Miss Hemingway's class, and I started going dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. Like I thought that me singing like that would be drowned out by the other kids, but like like little kids always think like you can't hear something that you can hear.
You know, it's funny because you mentioned Miss Hemingway's class. Jen loves like parody songs or like comedy songs. Like, what is that? Lonely Island and that other guy. I can't think of his name. That does a lot of comedy
Dennis
songs.
Leary, the asshole song.
No, not Dennis Leary, but she also loves Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, it's cool.
Jen's musical taste is horrendous, and I will say that to her face. So.
Okay.
But remember what we had growing up? I remember Miss Hemingway's class. We were forced to listen to like the Danny Kaye song, which Mommy, give me a glass of water.
Oh, I fucking hate that song.
And like the, what was his name? Alan Sherman's song, like Camp Granada.
Hate that song. I've always hated that song.
That's what we got.
Yeah.
Jen gets some relevant people.
Remember we had like an exercise in that class? Maybe this is a common thing in music class, but a bag would go around and you reach in and get an item, and then you go around. You have to be like, you have to sing about your item. Like, I have a block. It's made of wood. That was like, I think that's where I got social anxiety.
Oh God, there's always two good things, but like you might have gotten that one time, the Snoopy dolls.
No, I never got the good thing ever in school ever.
My hand, because I was Stark, so I was one of the last to pick. I never ever got the good stuff. It was always like you said, the wood block.
Oh yeah,
and a stick. It's like we did that quite often.
Yeah, I when you said stick, I like felt it in my little hands. I had like a sense memory of it.
Just thinking you want to stick it up your butt.
Yeah, well.
All right, so George had enough of this already. You know, he could handle the yarmulke, but not the dreidel song, just like you. So he has to put the kibosh on that. And he goes on to this like rant about the whole meaning of Hanukkah and the Jewish faith. And he really has like this profound understanding of Judaism. And it's kind of like, supposed to be a comical moment because, George is kind of an oaf. So even Marsh is like looking at him like, what the heck? And he gets all embarrassed and he's just like, Sandy Koufax taught me that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Sandy Koufax was famously Jewish. He wouldn't pitch on Saturdays.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
Have you read my notes?
Well, I know because I got the start those days.
How much Mr. Belvedere have you retained over the years?
Very little. Although this episode sounds really familiar to me.
Oh, you still don't know. You still don't know what the plot is yet. I feel like every episode did have like a sports reference, though. That was like George's thing. Like, that's how he related to people. All right, so finally, we're getting to what you want to hear about.
Yeah,
the secret. Wesley just barges in on Mr. Belvedere, probably having a wank, and he's just Mr. Belvedere's having this moment, admiring a pocket watch, very fond of it. Just taking it all in. And Wesley's quick to point out that it's broken and it has a crack on its face. Belvedere quickly changes the subject. And Wesley's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you want for Christmas? That's why I'm here. And Mr. Belvedere quips, I just want my room to myself. And Wesley's saying, well, how about a new watch? And he says, I already have one. And he's like, well, how about I get that one fixed? And he's just like, I like it the way it is. And Wesley's a bit frustrated by this. And that's the end of the scene.
Okay, my prediction is that Wesley's going to get the watch fixed without telling him, and he's going to get upset about it, and that's how he's going to reveal what happened.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
A little bit correct, but incorrect. All right, so next scene, here we go. Heather and Wesley. Wesley recruits Heather to sneak into Belvedere's room to take the pocket watch to have it fixed. Here's what you thought. Heather discovers that there's an inscription that says, "From Pamela." Who's Pamela?
Okay. Who is
They
that?
immediately jump to conclusions and assume it's about an old girlfriend. And then Wesley reads the accompanying letter. It says, "My brother has been called to the army. I must return home to take care of his kids. I'm leaving London tonight for Sheffield. With this gift, remember me. P.S. Did you eat all the peanut brittle?" Huge laughs. Huge laughs again. Heather concludes that, Pamela is probably Mr. Belvedere's one great love. Okay. Next scene.
Okay.
But anyways, what did we talk about? Okay. Sheffield, though. So she had to go back to Sheffield. Sheffield, obviously, they mentioned the Blitz in this episode, which was, heavy bombing raids by the Germans for, I think it was like 56 out of 57 days.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also the Sheffield Blitz. Apparently, Sheffield was a very industrial city, and was considered a very popular target by the Germans. So
I only know it's an industrial city because isn't that where Pulp is from?
Oh,
band Pulp.
yeah. Look at that. Look at that knowledge of Pulp. So the next scene, though, we have Wesley calling Sheffield on the phone. Just called up Sheffield.
Mm-hmm.
Heather's like, "You're fucking hopeless, dude," and abandons him. But he's just like, "Hey, I'm looking for Pamela Kent." And she like picks up the phone. He's just like, "Hey, Pamela, do you know Mr. Belvedere? You want to come to Pittsburgh and meet him?" And that's that scene.
Okay.
Now we go to there's always a moment in Mr. Belvedere where George is completely clueless on how to parent his kids, so he has to go to Mr. Belvedere for advice.
Huh.
So he notices something's up with Wesley, and he's just like, "Mr. Belvedere, let me ask you something. Well, Wesley was hounding me for gifts, but now he doesn't even care anymore. He's just obsessed about helping someone else out. Do you know anything about that?" And Mr. Belvedere's like, "I haven't got a clue." So he's like, Mr. Belvedere says, "Well, maybe the boy had a sudden burst of humanity." And George is like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." And then he says, "Mr. Belvedere, we're standing under the mistletoe." And Mr. Belvedere runs out of the room.
Weirdly, I can picture him running. Go on.
Wow, it's kind of a shuffle. One of the subplots of this movie, Jesus Christ. Well, it's longer than the episode, so it's almost a movie. One of the subplots, though, is that Heather really badly wants her own phone for Christmas. So she's doing a lot of snooping.
Yeah.
That was such a big thing in our youth, which everybody has their own. But I
Yeah.
remember in catalogs, you would get to the phone section. They would have all the novelty phones.
I mean, having
remember-
your own phone, but then having your own line was another extreme.
I
level.
remember that was a thing. Kids, like high school kids, friends, older siblings would work to pay for their own phone line. That was the deal. But I was weirdly, as a 7-year-old, I wanted my own phone line, but what the fuck was I going to do with it?
Yeah, me too.
Who was I calling? But anyway, so Heather finds out about that. Kevin's going skiing, and she wants to go to the Bahamas with her friend. And when she says, "Mom, can I go to the Bahamas?" And the mom's just says, "Only Perry Como goes to the Bahamas for Christmas," which is a kind of an interesting, very dated joke.
Yeah. Wow.
Perry Como actually had a special on TV in 1980. So this is 7 years earlier. Now, Perry Como, how many people know who he is now? But he hosted that show, and the big gets for that special was Bill Bonaparte, Captain and Tennille, and Darnell Chapman. I don't know any of those people besides Captain and Tennille. So George comes in and he's complaining about mall parking day before Christmas. That was another big thing in our day. I
remember driving to Sunrise Mall in my first car, and the traffic was so bad. And if your car, if it stopped completely, the car would break down. So I'd just be like, I got to keep rolling. I got to keep the car rolling.
I remember when you were dating, Lauren, and you had to get her. You had a list of gifts to get her. And we were going from like mall to mall right around Christmas, and it was just
Yeah.
like insane. I remember being in
Oh,
like the
yeah.
Disney store, and it was just packed and
Oh,
hot.
God.
But I mean, those are pretty cool memories, though.
No, they
Something
are, I
that's
guess.
very dated. So Mr. Belvedere waltzes on in, and he says that he's off to the movies and wants to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and that he won't be seeing them the next day. Now, my thought was, is he still going to be home because he like has a room there? Is he just going to hide in his room? And if that's just the case, I could see you doing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, this whole episode is really hitting close to home for me.
I'm almost done. You're almost going to get your resolution.
Wait, but I'm trying to figure out which movie he would have
In
been
87?
seeing. Yeah, December 87. The top 4 movies were 3 Men and a Baby, Throw Mama from the Train, Eddie Murphy Raw, that's what it was, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I could see that one. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He's kind of like the John Candy kind of character. Physique.
Well, 3 Men and a Baby was such a crazy hit
yeah,
that it's like forgotten to history that he was probably like, it was
yeah.
delightful, like everyone said.
That's Steve Gutenberg.
All right, let's get the resolution because I need to eat dinner.
There you go. All right. So Wesley quickly comes in and stops him and says, "You can't leave. I got a gift coming your way." And you're like, "Wait, what?" So he has to finally spill the beans, and he says, "I looked up Pamela Kent. She's coming to see you." And Mr. Belvedere says, "Oh, Wesley, you jump to conclusions. You don't fool around." Is my British impression horrible right now? I've done it like 5 times. Okay.
I'm loving it, but
I realized I've done it like 5 times.
I want to find out the answer to this.
So Mr. Belvedere comes clean. Here you go. And he tells him the origin story of the watch.
This is huge.
He talks about how World War II was extraordinary times and things happened, but him and Pamela were never meant to be because she was 20 years older than him. So they were just kind of friends. So everyone freaks out about the age difference. I mean, ageist then. Pamela then arrives at the door. She's old and confused, as you can imagine.
What?
She sees Kevin. She's like, "Oh, Lynn, you look great."
Wait, so Wesley got this old lady with dementia to get on a plane on Christmas Eve.
He flew her first class.
Wow.
I think she told him that she was going to meet someone famous like Larry Hagman or something too.
Oh.
But Pamela was played by Meg Wiley or Willie. I'm not sure how she says her name, but she's like a famous like actress that's been in like hundreds of things.
And she's still alive today.
She was in things from like The Last Starfighter, Golden Girls, Marnie, Twilight Zone, just all over the place. The next thing is they're in the kitchen. They're kind of trying to like rekindle their friendship, but it's just awkward. They're both sipping tea, not saying anything. Then they break out the sangria, and they are having the blast. They're talking about the old times. They're laughing.
I think that must be a joke about the classic British Irish repression that runs through the cultural landscape. You know, it's like I don't drink anymore, but I don't need it to open up to people these days because I've got a system of tunnels I used to get around the city. You know, the LAPD thought Hamas had infiltrated, but they just found the passageway that goes from my house to the allergist.
I'm just picturing you looking like the Mole Man character in like Fantastic Four, just getting around the tunnels.
And I would never. It's like I would definitely get bored of building the tunnel, so it'd be like 3 feet high. I'm like always scrunched down, going.
You're like Lucas. You're like Corey Abe and Lucas.
All right,
like
we can't mention Lucas every episode.
Oh no, we
did
did
last episode.
Oh no,
that's enough, Lucas. Let me take this to the next level. Have you ever seen an Atari joystick before?
She talks about how Lynn heroically carried her to safety during the Blitz, and then he told a joke about Hershey Kisses, that the Owens family only lets him go to Hershey Park, so he gets plenty of kisses. Get it?
Okay.
And when she sees his smile, she feels that connection again. They go back join the Owens family, and they're laughing and having a good time. And he reminds everyone that he never really hated Christmas. It just reminded him about Pamela and his friends he lost during the war. And that Christmas was just sad for him, but not this one. This one was special. You know, I mean, that did make me sad though when he said the friends he lost. Almost like I can't relate to this in any way, but it's touching me.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends with him saying that they're off to a fancy dinner at the best hotel restaurant in Pittsburgh. And Pamela says that they may even relive some of the high points of the Blitz. Is she talking about getting it on with him? Having a
I
quick
think she
shag?
is. Yeah. I mean, why else mention that's at a hotel?
And with nothing more to say, I mean, Kevin didn't go skiing. So with nothing more to say, Wesley's like, how about we open some presents? And they each like get a present to open. Wesley just gets a basketball and starts dribbling. And Heather gets a box and she's just like, oh, I got the big one. And they each have like one. And it's like what you said with growing pains. Like, what, did you just get one gift?
Wait, but did she open the box or she just said, I got a big
No,
one?
she was just like shaking it very excitedly. But like we said with growing pains, they each like got one gift. And it was like in these shows, they were always excited for Christmas, but they always got shit that like was like the gift you would get from like an aunt that you barely knew.
Oh yeah. Well, in media in general. Well, that's why I didn't believe in Santa, because I was like, okay, so Santa's gonna bring me Castle Grayskull, but when I watch like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Santa workshop toys are always like wood blocks. So is he breaking into Toys R Us's all over towns?
Yeah. It's not like the elves are building like Hasbro toys. They're building those like
That's fine. The
old-fashioned
basketball
wood
thing,
trades.
that is the kind of thing they would get. It's like, oh, awesome, a basketball.
It looked like the old worn out ones too that you had in gym class.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they just had it lying around the set. We're like, well, let's throw it in the scene. The show, Mr. Belvedere, I enjoyed the episode, but it looked incredibly dated. Like it looked like so low budget.
It looked like dated at the time. I don't know if it was just him or the set, whatever it was. Like it
This
somehow,
this is like 87, like where like the hyper colors of the 80s were coming in like popularity, and it looked incredibly like early 80s, like still like those browns and like khaki colors and like those ugly
that
like,
is
taupes and stuff.
It had the color scheme was really brown. It's funny you say that. It's like we got Charles in Charge, second family over on the other channel, looking looking like a trapper keeper, and Mr. Belvedere, everything is sepia.
And then finally, like the closing, you know how Mr. Belvedere always had to like rehash the events in his diary.
Oh yeah, I do remember that now.
You know what I wondered about Mr. Belvedere, by the way? I just want to quickly say is that in the novel and in the movie, it was that he joined the family because he was writing a book, and since it was like a part-time job, he had time to write the book, and he could use like the antics of the family as material. Mm-hmm. But in this show, was Lynn Belvedere ever writing anything? I feel like he was writing in his diary, but didn't he set out at one point to write a book, or is that a false memory?
He's actually writing a proto-Tarantino-esque screenplay. Oh, just a little mad thing. 2 lock and stocking barrels. Lock, stock, 2 small. Oh, man.
I liked your impression was good though. You could be the new Mr. Belvedere.
Oh my God, can I?
So he says, he's writing his diary and narrating it. He says, Pamela is safely home in Sheffield, and they promise to meet again in another 40 years. You know, they both didn't make it. Mr. Belvedere says that he gave Wesley the gift of repaying George for the first-class airfare. And he admits that he loves Wesley very much, but doesn't mean he can't have any fun with him.
Can't have any fun with him.
Pants him? What are you thinking?
I'm just leaving that one there.
He's sicko. And that's it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. You know.
I felt like I was there.
You know, it was like I said, it was okay watch. It wasn't my favorite thing, but made me a little sad. You know, we were alive in '87, could remember moments like that. But definitely go to watch from that to the Last Christmas video. Really amp up things for you. You know what I forgot to tell you, or maybe I did tell you this, but I'll just share it. As I mentioned to you, I think the other day that I was replaying the Resident Evil 4 remake for PlayStation, and Nova. You know where Nova's bed is in the house. It's kind of like overlooking the living room area. And she sleeps with the door open because she, you know, like all kids, she doesn't like the dark. So I'm playing the remake and I'm in like the water temple and like the druid section of the game. Mm-hmm. And I just shotgunning these druids, like their heads are coming apart at close range. And I just hear her like all of a sudden she's at the top of the stairs and she's like, what are you doing, Daddy? Are you playing your game? It looks like a lot of fun. Maybe when I'm older, I can play too. And I'm just like, she's just watching me like break apart these people's faces. It's like, oh, at least she's not scarred by any of this.
Yeah, you're trying to get her to play Pong. She knows what the good shit is.
Remember when we both said that we were going to watch like a crazy Christmas episode, and we both picked one of the same title that was kind of just bland?
I know. I don't know how we fucked up so bad. I
It's always next
The
year.
thing is, I was looking up like crazy episodes, and when I saw Jump Down the Chimney to Kill Self, I was like, oh, that's got to be nuts, you know? And it is weird, but it's not as crazy as I wanted.
Mhm. Oh well, maybe
Oh, well.
next year.
Maybe next year. Well,
The
that
last,
about-
last
okay.
I was just going to say, since it's the holiday season, I don't know if we're doing another episode in time for Christmas. So, do you have any fun Christmas memories that you want to share? Any great gifts or anything? I think I ask you this every time.
Well,
I
sorry, what? Should I
Oh,
answer
no,
the
go.
question?
Go.
Or?
Oh, you can answer the question. Yeah.
I can't even think of anything. I mean,
Oh,
it's hard to not think. All I think about Christmas is like when I was a kid, the anticipation, but then like the sadness of the next day, you know?
yeah.
And then certain times that I look back on, I think that was a great Christmas. But if anyone was there, they'd be like, wait, that was Ed came to like my parents' house, someone I dated, and he spent the whole time in like the guest bedroom. So how could that be his best Christmas?
It was definitely cool, like our high school, college years. I'm sure a lot of people
Oh,
can relate
yeah.
to this, when you would spend it with like a lot of friends at night.
Yeah,
So you do like
when
the
you were a
family.
kid, when you were a kid, the Christmas night kind of was sad. But
Oh,
once you
yeah.
had like friend hangouts, and we were seeing films like The Postman with Kevin Costner,
Mhm.
that was cool.
Yeah, I mean that movie would obviously is horrible, but like doing that with friends on like a holiday, that made it more memorable. I remembered one of my worst Christmases, which I think is more interesting. You always want to
Okay.
hear about people's misery. It's Christmas 1990, because I know this because of the dates of the release dates of these Game Boy games, but it was like one of those years where my dad had to work, so he was absent for Christmas. My brother like spent it with his friends, so it was just me and my mom. And I think my mom was going through something, maybe the lack of, other family members or something else, but she was like kind of absent. I think she was just like relieved herself to the kitchen all day. And so I just spent it in my room playing Game Boy games that I got. I got 5 Game Boy games, and they were such shitty titles, but I just played them nonstop for like the duration of Christmas. It was
What were they?
heavyweight boxing,
Okay.
Revenge
must
of the
have been
Gator.
Dog shit.
Oh yeah, had five fighters that you would fight, and they were pretty easy. So it took me like 20 minutes to beat the game. Revenge of the Gator, which was a pinball game, which was okay. Konami NFL Football, but it didn't have license to any of the players.
I hate that.
I think this is how you say it. The Daily and Opus, which was like a puzzle game.
Okay, I never heard of it.
And this was okay, but it was pretty easy to beat. TMNT Fall of the Foot Clan. And I just remember sitting, and none of my friends were around. I was like desperate. I called like every kid I knew to be like, what are you doing today? But 2 years later would be probably my most memorable of getting Sega CD. The anticipation of getting that
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
was insane. And then the disappointment of playing the Sherlock Holmes game Christmas morning.
Oh, I remember playing that Christmas morning with TurboGrafx CD, and I liked it. I'm surprised because
Oh,
I
boy.
thought it had like almost a sexy quality in some of the interactions with some of those Victorian ladies. And
I thought you were talking about Watson.
When you were a kid,
Yeah.
you kind of thought you knew that there was no way the TurboGrafx was going to like have a sexy game that would be as good as actual sex, but some of you was like, maybe this will become like the Emilio Estevez segment of the movie Nightmares, and I'll like actually fuck this TurboGrafx 16.
Your mom's just walking on you playing Sherlock Holmes with tissues and lube next to you.
Just banging that TurboGrafx with a Atari joystick up my ass.